After signing the contract, Spencer and Aditya spent some time distributing the troops who had surrendered. At the same time, each Viscount was given 100,000 royal gold coins to run and develop their own territories. The responsibility of production and the profits that are earned from selling Thunder Leaf Herb were handed to the 9 Viscounts that governed the Shadow Islands. Aditya let the small problems that the Viscounts were going to face into their own hands. He wasn't going to participate in such small matters. After all, he had bigger things in his hand. The contract prevented the nobles from betraying the Eastern Empire. And with the Shadow Guardian, from now on, their activities will be watched by Aditya. If any corruption was found, the Shadow Guardians would report it to Aditya. Spencer also told the newly appointed Viscounts about the point earning system and its usage. He also explained why their rank started from Viscount. As long as a noble had enough merit points, he can upgrade his rank to Earl or Marquis or even to the rank of Duke. He also explained the benefits that came with each higher rank. Finally, after 3 hours of meeting, Aditya sent everyone to their territories. Before leaving, he gave each Viscount 23rd Order Dragonians. The Dragonians would ensure their territories are protected till they build their own armies. Once the nobles are capable enough to stand on their own, the Dragonians would return. By the time Aditya was finished, it was already 7 in the morning. Leaving Viscount Leon in charge of Zion City and Ashkur Island, Aditya and others left the Shadow Islands Empire and returned to Azure City. Aditya knew that in a few hours, the Echo Nexus Empire was going to find out what had happened and was going to declare war on the Eastern Empire. At the same time, when the news of the Eastern Empire conquering 3 Western powerhouses within a single night comes out, it was going to send shockwaves across the whole continent. Just thinking of what is going to happen in the future, I am already feeling tired. Aditya rubbed his forehead while walking toward the dining table. It was already time for breakfast. So instead of returning to his bedroom, he would have breakfast and talk with his family before this peaceful time runs out. Once the war starts, Aditya would become super busy. He also has to finish this war or at least bring it to a standstill within 9 days. Aditya hopes that he won't have to spend too much time in Deep Sea Palace. Normally, Aditya wouldn't go there. No king would leave his kingdom while his kingdom is at war. But he had given his word to Laura. And he wasn't the type of person who would break his word. Good morning, everyone. Walking to the dining table, Aditya greeted everyone. There was Watson who was serving food. Spencer was sitting next to Leo. His 7 generals were also present. Julia, Alicia, Ria, and Lara were also there. Lara's maid was standing behind Lara. She wore a mask. Lara's food was very different from others. Lara's maid personally prepared her lady's breakfast today. It was a special type of breakfast that vampires enjoy a lot. The food that Lara's maid prepared was rich in iron. Good morning, Aditya. Good morning. Good morning. Good. Aditya nodded at everyone before sitting down. Unlike other days, today's breakfast was different. Watson had specially asked the royal chief to cook flaming chicken meat for everyone. Flaming chicken was a special chicken breed that is said to be a descendant of Phoenix. Flaming chickens are like wyverns that have connections to dragons. An average flaming chicken is 3 to 4 times bigger than a normal chicken. Upon maturing, flaming chicken can become peak second-order powerhouse. Unfortunately, the attacking power of flaming chicken is really low. Even a peak first-order human cultivator would easily win against peak second-order flaming chicken. Ironically, flaming chicken can't use any flame-type attacks. The reason they were called flaming chickens is because of the amber that radiates from their body. The meat of flaming chicken is very delicious. Especially in noble circles, the meat of flaming chicken is considered a luxurious treat. As flaming chicken is extremely difficult to capture. And they are only found in certain parts of the world. Let's eat. After Aditya, everyone else started eating. Watson took a chair next to Spencer and sat down to eat. No one said anything. Even though Watson was officially Aditya's personal butler, everyone knew that the old man was Aditya's right hand. Watson had more power and authority than even Spencer. Aside from that, Watson was the eldest one here. Everybody highly respected the old man. Did you find out anything about Lara's illness? Yesterday, Ria and Julia had taken Lara to the laboratory. Julia sighed in depression. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about this kind of illness. The whole night I read many old books. But I couldn't find anything that matches Sister Lara's illness. I will need to do more research. Julia was hoping to find something that would help her. But she couldn't find any related to Lara's illness. The only choice that Julia was left with was to create a pill that can cure Lara's illness. But to create a pill, Julia will need to learn more about her illness. Aditya smiled and encouraged his wife. Don't worry, take your time. Julia nodded her head with a smile. With Sister Ria's help, should be able to find a cure for Sister Lara's illness in no time. At least this is what Julia hoped. Lara's illness was very mysterious. Deep down, Julia knew that it might even take her months if not years to develop a pill that is capable of curing Sister Lara. But Julia refused to acknowledge that. Julia felt that she can quicken the process with Ria's assistant. Thank you, Sister Julia. Yesterday, after spending the whole day with Julia, Ria, and Alicia, Lara got to learn many new things about this world. She also learned more about her husband and her sisters. Silly girl, there is no need to thank us. It's my responsibility to find a cure for you. As the goddess of alchemy, her pride wouldn't allow her to let her sister die because of some illness. Not to mention the fact that Julia saw Lara as her real sister. It would make her sad if the sleeping princess died under her watch. Everyone, I want to tell you all something. Everyone's gaze was on Aditya. There is going to be a big war. This time our opponent will be the Echo Nexus Empire. Silence. The entire dining table fell into deep silence after Aditya finished his words. Everyone except for Lara knew about the tremendous power that the Echo Nexus Empire held. The Empire had the strongest military and the Empire had the strongest political allies. Whenever the Echo Nexus Empire has gone to war, it has shaken the entire dying All continent. The Echo Nexus Empire is so strong that it wouldn't be wrong to call the Empire the king of the dying All continent. Even though the Echo Nexus Empire is not big as the Eastern Empire, the Echo Nexus Empire had a huge history. Whenever any kingdom or empire managed to get on Echo Nexus Empire's bad side, various kinds of sanctions would fall upon the enemy empire. These sanctions would cripple the economy of the enemy empire. Their empire would become totally isolated from the rest of the continent. There was a certain empire that had raised its voice against the Echo Nexus Empire. Within a month, that empire lost all of its political support and its allies. Export and import with other neighboring empires and kingdoms were completely cut off. Even though the empire had the second largest reserve of mana stones in the dying All continent, no kingdom or empire bought mana stones from them because of the economic sanctions. To make matters worse, in the name of killing criminals and terrorists, the Echo Nexus Empire sent its troops to that empire and killed over 1 million innocent civilians. As a result, right now that empire that once proudly stood that the fifth order strongest empire in the dying All continent was now considered the weakest empire in the dying All continent. That empire is now a place where criminals and terrorists from others empires and kingdoms would come and live. It had become a hub of all sorts of illegal activities. Every single day, many innocent civilians living in that empire die at the hands of criminals. The empire that once stood up as paradise now had turned into a hell. Although the Echo Nexus Empire did not attack directly, indirectly they completely destroyed this empire. After breakfast was over, Aditya took Lara and teleported to her room. Although the sleeping princess had breakfast with them, it was not enough for her. As a vampire, her real food was drinking blood. Otherwise, she would be sleeping most of the time and her body would also become weak. After teleporting into Lara's bedroom, Aditya sat on the edge of the bed. He then looked at Lara and signaled her to come to sit on his lap. The sleeping princess blushed but did not refuse. Lara always welcomed intimacy with her husband. In fact, she enjoyed it more than anything. Although she would never admit it, she is always looking forward to this moment. This moment makes her whole day much brighter. For her, this moment is more enjoyable than her whole day. Although she appeared to be shy, she loved it when her husband teased her and played with her. Lara put her hands on his shoulders and sat on his lap facing him. Aditya naturally wrapped his arms around her soft waist. How are you feeling? Aditya could have let Lara drink his blood and gotten it over. But he wanted to use this private moment to develop their relationship and know more about Lara. Ever since Lara drank her husband's blood, Lara feels better. Now Lara can stay awake for almost 10 to 12 hours. Lara doesn't feel weak as before. So Lara can use my time to do other things. Aditya nodded his head with a satisfied look. How others are treating you? Even though he knew it wouldn't happen, he was worried that others might treat Lara rudely behind his back. Everyone treats Lara with kindness. Lara feels happy here. Aside from Julia, Ria, and Alicia who already saw Lara as their little sister and treated her like one, others were also really kind to her. Leo's little sister, Clara dragged Lara to play with her as both were almost the same age. That's glad to know. In the future if you ever want anything or if you want to go anywhere, don't be shy. You can always ask me. If I am busy, then you can ask your sisters. Alright. Lara is spending her days reading books while sister Julia researches on Lara's illness. Lara is learning more about this world. Aditya nodded in agreement. This way, Lara wouldn't feel lost in this current world. What about your maid? Rose spent her whole day cultivating. Since the mana density in the Dragon Palace is really high, Rose feels that she would be able to increase her cultivation realm very quickly. Rose is a cautious person. She wants to be ready for unpredictable future circumstances. Since Lara's parents had told her to protect Lara, she wants to increase her cultivation so that in emergency situations she could protect her lady. Aditya nodded in agreement. Aditya had told Watson to not treat Rose like any other maid in the Dragon Palace. Compared to other maids who worked in the Dragon Palace, Rose had more freedom and more authority. Lara continued to speak. She didn't realize Aditya's face had gotten close to hers. By the time she noticed it, he was already kissing her. His lips were on her lips. He lightly bit her lower lips, earning a moan from her closed mouth. Lara opened her mouth and let him in. His tongue entered her mouth and started wrestling with her tongue. Lara could only grab his neck and struggle to defend himself against Aditya's fierce attacks. Poor Lara couldn't compare against Aditya who had a lot of experience in kissing. In the end, Lara was completely dominated. The sleeping princess's face was full of joy and happiness. She was in her husband's arms. His strong arms gave her a sense of security. His chest covered her fragile body and protected her from the outside world. And his deep kiss reflected the love and warmth that he had for her. Right now her heart was satisfied. But at the same time, her husband's deep kiss was starting to awaken something inside her. Lara wasn't sure how to describe these strange feelings. Back in the past, Lara was taught about sex and marriage by her royal mother. At that time, she only has been taught the basics. She was told that a man put his stick inside and babies are made. Her royal mother never went on to describe the emotions, the pleasure that a girl would feel in the process. Now Lara was discovering these new emotions within her thanks to her husband. The kiss went on for about an entire minute. Aditya had to stop because while he can hold his breath for a long time, Lara can't do that. If he kept going, then she would suffer. After they stopped, Lara breathed heavily as she stared at Aditya. Both of their foreheads were touching at the moment. Both could each other's hot passionate breath. There was still a bridge of saliva that connected both of their lips. Huff. 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 After being kissed by her husband, Lara's cheeks flushed red. Husband, please kiss Lara again. Lara did not shy down from asking for another kiss. After all, the sleeping princess was the type of woman who enjoyed her intimate moments with her husband and always looked forward to them. She wasn't like a certain princess who was too embarrassed to ask for more. Anything for my princess. Aditya smiled before leaning his face down. The second kiss lasted an extra 10 seconds longer. When the kiss ended, Lara had a satisfied smile. She looked slightly embarrassed, but the happiness on her face couldn't be hidden. Those eyes of hers were in love and were filled with passion. Lara felt her entire body was on fire. There was something magical about his touch and his kisses that made her want to ask for more. Huff. Huff. Putting his forehead against her forehead, he looked into her eyes. There was a soft and gentle smile. This is the kind of smile that the fierce and dominating dragon monarch wouldn't show to others. Only his women got to see this kind of smile. Husband, Lara feels happy. Lara loves her husband. Saying that without daring to look into his eyes, like a frightened rabbit she buried her face into his chest. Royal mother, I have found my happiness in this time. He is my fated one. I hope you have found your peace in heaven. Lara thought before closing her eyes. No pillow in this world can match this feeling. His heart heat was like a magical drum that calmed her heart and relaxed her entire body. Lara was able to let go of her worries. She felt if she stayed in his arms like that for a few seconds, she might fall asleep. Aditya patted her back with a smile on his smile. With time, I am starting to get attached to you as well. If one day you disappeared, I don't know what I would do. Just thinking of Lara dying because of her illness, Aditya felt as if his entire world was being split apart. I really hope Julia finds a cure for her illness. Aditya closed his eyes and enjoyed the moment with Lara. Sometimes, Aditya really wished to let go of all the outside world matters and spend his whole life with his wives. But unfortunately, it was not possible. The position and power of the dragon monarch came with a heavy responsibility. Husband, can I ask you something? Earlier, you talked about war. The pleasant atmosphere around them suddenly disappeared. Aditya looked down to find a worried face of Lara. Isn't there any other option besides starting a war? Unfortunately no. Aditya also didn't like war. Yet in the span of 9.5 months, the Eastern Empire had to fight so many kingdoms and empires. The Eastern Empire was already so big. Aditya would prefer not to start another war, but if the other party is hostile and wants war, Aditya isn't the type of man to back down. Is it dangerous? Lara asked while biting her lower lip. Not for me. Even if the whole continent comes, I will still win this war. Aditya knew even if he wins, a huge number of people would die if that ever happened. After a moment of silence, Lara asked another question. Can husband win this war? Lara worriedly asked. I have won every single war in my life. Don't worry, I won't lose this one either. I will try to finish it as quickly as possible. Though Aditya knew that this war was going to be on a complete different level than other wars that he has fought. The power of the Echo Nexus Empire cannot be underestimated. Aditya didn't want to say these words to Lara as it would worry her for no reason. Alright, enough talking. It's time. Saying Aditya exposed the right side of his neck. Go ahead. Lara's eyes sparkled in excitement. The next second those gems of hers shined in a red glint. A next second Lara's fangs elongated. Without wasting a single second, her fangs pierced his skin. Aditya tightened his grip on her waist. He experienced this intense pleasure every single time when she drank his blood. His breath quickened. Lara, who was sitting on Aditya's crotch, felt something poking her. She quickly understood what was happening. She was embarrassed and also happy at the same time. After a while, Lara stopped. Huff. Huff. Both of them looked at each other. As if by instinct their faces moved toward each other. Both of their lips connected. Both of them began to express the passion in their hearts. Around an hour later. Aditya stopped. Even though he wanted to continue, he knew others were waiting for him. Also, Aditya had to start preparing for the war. Huff. Huff. After an hour of kissing, Lara's whole face was flushed. Her whole body was on fire. Can you walk? Lara shyly nodded her head. Husband, Lara's lips are swollen because you kissed Lara too fiercely. Really? I guess a few more kisses will help you out. Bad husband, big sisters are waiting for you. Took you long enough. I thought you won't come. Humph. Aditya put Lara down while staring at Julia. The next second Aditya teleported in front of Julia. Before she could react, she found herself being kissed by Aditya. Julia was embarrassed being kissed in front of others. Even though she weakly tried to push Aditya away, he didn't move an inch. The kiss went on for 10 minutes. No fair. Ria walked up to Aditya. Seeing this, Alicia also didn't want to be left out. The next 2 hours were spent kissing. All the kissing sounds made everyone horny. Even Lara wasn't spared. I will take my leave. I have some work to do. You guys can have lunch and dinner without me. Aditya now needed to start preparing for the war. There was one important thing that he wanted to do before the war officially started. In his personal study room, Aditya was sitting on the floor with his adamantite doomblade on his lap. The dragon monarch looked really focused on his work. He was drawing runes on his 5-star adamantite doomblade sword. Since a war on his foot doors, Aditya wanted to prepare as much as he could. Even without using the adamantite doomblade, he was confident that he could beat his enemies, but having his adamantite doomblade will make him even stronger. Besides Aditya, there was also a 5-star full-body crimson armor. This time, he was going to the battlefield fully prepared. Other times, Aditya never bothered to wear full-body armor. But this time, the role he would play in this war would decide the outcome. Using dragon transfer, Aditya would be able to fight on multiple battlefields. After becoming a 4-star runemaster, his engraving speed has doubled if not tripled. Previously this would have taken him more than half a day to finish, but now he was able to finish enchanting the adamantite doomblade within a few hours. It's done. Aditya held the adamantite doomblade with a proud smile. The system showed him the description of his work. Adamantite doomblade. Peak 5-star. Description: a special sword forged from a special ore only found under a volcano. This sword was forged by a talented blacksmith. This sword is extremely sharp and 3 tons in weight. The adamantite doomblade can withstand heavy pressure and temperature. After being enchanted by a talented 4-star runemaster, the rank of his sword has been raised from mid 5-star to peak 5-star. The adamantite doomblade has only one true master. No other being in this world other than the true master will be able to use the full power of this sword. Functions 1. The adamantite doomblade can change its shape and its size according to the will of the true master. Function 2. Overheat. Each strike dealt or each hit taken has a chance to put a buff on you that makes your next strike inflict 200% more damage. This chance depends on the power of the enchantment. The chances of activating Overheat increases when fighting lower-order cultivators. When Overheat is activated, the color of the adamantite doomblade will change to crimson. Function 3. Bleeding. A chance that the enemy will start to lose 3% health every 5 seconds after being hit. This change is proportional to the damage dealt and the power of the enchantment. Function 4. Frenzy. A chance to increase your melee damage by 150% for 5 seconds after dealing or receiving a hit. Function 5. Bloodlust. The adamantite doomblade reacts with your killing intent. When Bloodlust is activated, your physical strength will... Perfect. Aditya was very satisfied with his work. He then picked up the crimson armor set lying beside him. As he did, the description was shown by the system. Crimson Warlock set. Mid 5-star. Description: Crimson Warlock set was made by a talented goblin blacksmith. The Crimson Warlock set was made for kings and emperors. The armor set was made from a special ore that can conduct electricity and absorb damage to a certain extent. The power of the Crimson Warlock set was raised from beginner 5-star to mid 5-star after a talented 4-star blacksmith added enchantment. Function 1. Crimson Corruption. Successfully attacking your foe with a weapon will curse him. He will receive periodic damage. The mythical enchantment of Warlock set. For every 10% damage received by the opponent with a weapon or unarmed attacks gives a curse to the opponent, marked with a red sparkling aura around the opponent. Each curse inflicts a bleeding effect on the opponent and increases with each stack. The curse lasts for 5 seconds. However, the curse expiration is refreshed with every successful hit. This curse effect can stack up to 3. This ability will not work against cultivators whose cultivation is above peak 5th order. Function 2. Life Drain. When your health drops by 75%, the Crimson Warlock set will activate Life Drain. When Life Drain is activated, each time damage is received by the opponent with a weapon or unarmed attacks, you will recover a small portion of your health. The amount of health that you will recover is directly proportional to the amount of damage that your attacks do to your opponent. Function 3. Safeguard. 75% of attack damage will be reduced from cultivators whose cultivation is below 5th order. Safeguard won't work against 5th order or higher order cultivators. With a satisfied smile, Aditya put the Crimson Warlock armor set in his storage ring. He was going to wear this armor set during this war. And lastly, we have this. Aditya smiled looking at the light blue cubic-shaped pendant in his hand. The runes on his pendant were almost non-existent. One would need to take a very close look if he wants to see the runes. Aditya worked on his pendant in his spare time. At first, this pendant was nothing but an experimental product. He used his 4-star runemaster skills on making this artifact. Since he was going to war, Aditya decided to use this artifact. So he took 15 minutes to modify this pendant a little bit. Holding the pendant, Aditya stared at the description of this pendant. Shard of Life. Beginner 4-star. Description: a normal light blue cubic-shaped pendant that has been turned into an artifact using the skills of the Rune Monarch. Unlike other 4-star artifacts, this artifact only has one function. Function 1. Mana Recovery Array. There is a small mana gathering array on his cubic-shaped pendant. The main function of the pendant is to increase your mana recovery speed. The pendant increases your mana recovery speed by 30%. The shard of life will help me recover my mana as quickly as possible. This pendant will be of great help on the battlefield. Aditya wasn't planning on using the Crown of Seven Seas unless he had been cornered by the enemies and had no other choice. But Aditya didn't think he would face anyone that strong. The current Aditya can destroy any peak 5th order cultivator. He can even take on a beginner 6th order cultivator with no problem. Even if high order cultivators try to fight Aditya, their cultivation will be lowered to peak 5th order. The law of this world forbids any high order cultivator from attacking any lower order cultivator. Aditya wore the pendant around his neck. Just as he stood up and stretched his body, someone knocked on the door. Knock. Knock. Who is it? Aditya asked even though he knew who it was. Your Majesty, it's me, Spencer. I came to report. Come in. Behind Spencer, Watson also walked in. Aditya didn't stop Watson as the old man's presence was needed. Even though he was a butler, his rich experience can help them out. Besides, Watson was also Aditya's first Dragonian. That itself gave him almost the same position as the generals within the Istran military. Aditya sat down on a chair. He then signaled Spencer and Watson to sit on the couch that was located opposite the table. This was Aditya's personal study room. Behind the couches, there were wooden shelves with many old books on them. Most of these books were about history, geography, and war tactics. From the look on Watson and Spencer's faces, Aditya already knew what Spencer's first sentence was going to be. Your Majesty, the Echo Nexus Empire has officially declared war against us. Aditya smirked expecting this sentence from Spencer and Watson. The atmosphere in the room changed as Aditya's smile faded and was replaced with an icy cold gaze. So it's here. What did you say? The Echo Nexus Emperor is demanding you to release the Crown Prince. Back then instead of killing the Crown Prince, Aditya kept him alive. But he had destroyed the Crown Prince's cultivation. In exchange for what? Aditya asked. Your Majesty, the Emperor just demanded you to release the Crown Prince. He said the following words: the Istran Empire has dared to destroy the Dragon Slayer Guild even though the world knows that the Dragon Slayer Guild is an important friend of the Echo Nexus Empire. Istran Empire, prepare to face the wrath of Echo Nexus Empire. That's some bold and arrogant words. Watson did not look pleased with all. Right now he felt angry. But everyone in the room knew that the Echo Nexus Emperor had the power to back his arrogance. That being said, the Echo Nexus Emperor has called for a meeting with all of his allies. Your Majesty, you should know what that means, right? Aditya nodded his head with a serious look. He already saw this coming. The aim of the Echo Nexus Empire was to crush the Istran Empire. Even before Aditya attacked the Dragon Slayer Guild, the relationship between the Istran Empire and the Echo Nexus Empire wasn't that good. Both empires remained neutral toward each other. One reason why the Istran Empire and the Echo Nexus Empire weren't that good is because of Echo Dominion Empire. Both Echo Nexus Empire and the Echo Dominion Empire have been rivals for centuries. Their rivalry was even bigger than the rivalry between the White Dragon King and the Black Dragon King. Since the Echo Dominion Empire was an official ally of the Istran Empire, the Echo Nexus Empire wasn't going to become allies with their enemies' friends. Another main reason why the relationship between the Istran Empire and the Echo Nexus Empire wasn't that good is because of the Istran Empire's rapidly growing power and influence in the dying Al continent. It wouldn't be wrong to say that the Echo Nexus Empire is the crown of the dying Al continent. The empire was so powerful and influential that it can control the entire continent. The rapid rise of the Istran Empire has threatened the long dominance of the Echo Nexus Empire. The Echo Nexus Empire was afraid that the Istran Empire would replace them and soon become the next big powerhouse of the dying Al continent. They were also afraid of the fact that their biggest rival's friend was going to end their dominance. Now the Istran Empire's actions against the Dragon Slayer Guild and against their Crown Prince gave the Echo Nexus Empire and its allies the perfect excuse to take out the Istran Empire before it grows into a threat that they can't handle. The fact that the Echo Nexus Empire was calling for a meeting showed that he did not take the military of the Istran Empire lightly. He wasn't willing to take any chances. The outcome of this meeting will affect the future of the Istran Empire. The Echo Nexus Empires had powerful allies from other continents as well. If all allies attacked the Istran Empire, the whole war will become a one-sided battle. 15 lean, round towers dominate the skyline of this massive castle and are connected by large, chunky walls made of sandstone. Crude windows are scattered thinly across the walls in an asymmetric pattern, along with holes of various sizes for archers and artillery. A moderate gate with great wooden doors, a regular bridge, and large crenellations guard the last stronghold along this rough shoreline, and it's the only way in, at least without taking down the castle walls. Various large houses are scattered outside the castle gates. Surprisingly, the rich are comfortable with living outside the gates as well. This castle is relatively new, but it stood its ground with ease and will likely do so for ages to come. This was the castle of Echo Nexus Emperor. This newly built castle was made for the Crown Prince. This castle was going to be given to Louis as a gift by the Emperor the day when Louis becomes the Emperor. And that day was going to come very soon. Originally, the Emperor had planned to make Louis the next Emperor within 6 months. But all of his plans now had failed. Louis was captured, and their ally was attacked. The atmosphere of Ostran City was very tense. Originally, under Emperor Luca McNeil's orders, the whole of Ostran City was preparing for the days when the Crown Prince will officially become the Emperor. The whole city was decorated. On this joyous occasion, the emperor even reduced the tax on food products. But all that went down the drain when the news of the crown prince is captured by the Eastern emperor reached the ears of Austrians. The celebrative atmosphere of the city and of the empire disappeared. The atmosphere of the whole city became cold and gloomy. Austrians means the city above demigods. The Austrian city is the capital of the Echo Nexus city. The city of Austrians was built in the shadow of a rugged volcano and is truly an extraordinary display of wonder. Its wonder is matched by the backdrop of modest hills which have helped shape the city into what it is today. The riches these hills brought were of great importance, but they were also influential when it came to architectural designs, as the vast majority of buildings follow the flowing round shapes of those very same hills and continue the overall aesthetics. Culture is rising in Austrians and it has attracted a lot of attention. Countless cultures have left their mark not just on the city's development, but also on the city's identity. What historically was a city of plain, ordinary people has grown into a fusion of everything, and it's this that unites the 8 million people to this day. It's this multicultural identity that has truly left its mark. Hundreds of concession stands, theme restaurants, and restaurants offer a plethora of culinary choices. Meanwhile, within the royal castle, massive braziers half enclosing each of the 10 travertine columns light up most of the throne hall and mantle the hall in warm yellows. The paintings of angels and cherubs on the bowed ceiling dance in the flickering light, while marble icons and memorials look down upon the maple floor of this regal hall. A carmine rug runs from the throne to the doors and is matched by smaller ones on either side of the hall, while square dag banners with burnished tassels dangle gently from the walls. Between each banner sits a small altar full of candles, almost all of them have been lit and in turn illuminate the depictions of other leaders of the world below them. Massive, stained glass windows depicting important royal moments are enclosed by curtains colored the same carmine as the banners. The curtains have been adorned with impressive needlework and decorated tips. A regal throne of stone sits behind a lavish gate of gilded wood and is adjoined by 6 rather plain-looking seats for visiting dignitaries. The throne is covered in complicated marks and fixed on each of the broad feet is a crystal dagger. The comfortable pillows are a dark carmine and these too have been adorned with emblazoned sigils. Those listening to their royal highness can do so on the abundance of lightly illuminated oak benches, all of which are perfectly aligned in rows. A man wearing a simple white t-shirt and black pants was sitting on the regal throne of stone and resting his body on the dark carmine pillows. The man was tan-skinned. Under his simple loose clothes, his muscular body was adorned with old scars and marks. Standing at a height of 6 feet 6 inches, his tan skin and his muscular body made him look like a beast folk even though he is a human. His intimidating eyes and his stoic face made him unapproachable. The man had an aura of a ruler around his body. This aura of his made it difficult even for the nobles of this empire to tremble in front of the emperor. This was the emperor of the Echo Nexus Empire. His name was Luca McNeil. The feared emperor who controls the whole dying Al continent. As of this moment, the emperor had an impatient tone on his face. The fall of the Dragon Slayer Guild and the news of his son being taken away by the Eastern Empire had pissed off the emperor. "Philip, did you send my words to the Eastern Empire?" asked Luca to his Prime Minister Philip. "Your Majesty, by now your words should have reached the ears of the Eastern Emperor." Hearing this, a freezing smile appeared on the emperor's face. With his freezing smile, some advisors felt their blood running cold. Whenever the emperor has shown this kind of smile on his face, nothing good has happened. The advisors even felt pity for the Eastern Empire and the Eastern Emperor. "Philip, do you think my son is still alive?" Luca dearly loved his firstborn. Even though the emperor had many sons and daughters, Louis always remained his #1 favorite. The emperor has carefully raised his son to take his throne and manage the empire so that Luca can rest. Despite looking like a middle-aged man, Luca was over 700+ years old. Luca is a man who had seen the rise and the fall of empires. He and the Echo Nexus Empire managed to survive and become the superpower of the dying Al continent because of his cautious and sly nature. "Your Majesty, there is no need to worry. I am sure not even the Eastern Emperor dares to do any harm to his highness." Little did Philip and Luca know that Aditya had crippled the crown prince's cultivation. And each with passing second, his sufferings were only growing. As 2 Dragonians were constantly torturing the crown prince. The emperor was waiting for the other emperors to arrive. It was no hidden fact that any force that messes with the Echo Nexus Empire or with any of its allies will face wrath from the whole alliance. I wouldn't have called for this meeting if I hadn't heard this news. Along with the news of his son being taken away, Luca also got the news about how the Eastern Empire managed to defeat 3 Western empires within a single night and had taken total control over them. This news greatly bothered the empire. Luca wasn't a fool. If he was, then he wouldn't have lived for 700+. Hearing the news, he knew that he needed to reevaluate the military strength of the Eastern Empire once again. The plan of attacking the Eastern Empire was called off. It wouldn't be wrong to assume that the current Eastern Empire is even stronger than the Echo Dominion Empire. If it is, then fighting the Eastern Empire alone would leave us weakened. It would be better to fight Eastern Empire using the Oracle Alliance. Luca knew once the Echo Nexus Empire loses its strength, it would lose its position and powers that it currently holds. This is something that Luca wanted to avoid at all costs. So he was going to use the Oracle Alliance to fight this war. The Oracle Alliance was an alliance formed between the 11 empires and the Dragon Slayer Guild. The Dragon Slayer Guild was an unofficial member of the alliance. The Echo Nexus Empire added the Dragon Slayer Guild to the alliance for its protection. The alliance members benefited from the Dragon Slayer Guild. So no one raised any objection. The head of the Oracle Alliance was the Echo Nexus Empire. It is an alliance that was formed between the friends of the Echo Nexus Empire. The Oracle Alliance was the Echo Nexus Empire's biggest strength, and the Echo Nexus Empire was the Oracle Alliance members' biggest strength. The whole alliance was more like a one-sided dominance. The other 10 empires had to listen to the Echo Nexus Empire no matter what. If any party, faction, empire, kingdom, dynasty, or foreign power attacked any member of the alliance, every other member of the Oracle Alliance will deploy its military to fight. A few hours earlier, Luca had personally written 11 letters to the alliance members asking them to attend the meeting. Of course, Luca knew that he was making an unreasonable request by forcing the alliance members to gather for an emergency meeting. The emperors must be busy with their own work. But he didn't care. This was about his son. Luca wanted to waste no time. Your Majesty, everyone has arrived. They are waiting for your presence. Luca opened his eyes upon hearing this. He looked at Philip. Let's go. Meanwhile, within the Echo Nexus Empire, far from the capital, on a small island, there was a big mansion. This whole small island is a special place. Only the members of the Oracle Alliance can come to this island. The mansion is the place where all the meetings and talkings of the Oracle Alliance took place. The mansion on this island was big enough to let around 500 people stay. In the living room, there was a big round table. 10 out of the 11 chairs around the round table have been occupied. Everyone has arrived. Only the Echo Nexus Empire hasn't come. To the other emperors, this was very disrespectful. Since the Echo Nexus Emperor is the one who had called for this emergency meeting, he should come before everyone, but he is late. This isn't the first time Luca was doing it. In fact, everyone in the alliance knew that Luca was only using them for benefits. Everyone allowed it to happen as they also received many benefits from joining this alliance. I assume that you all know why this emergency meeting was called. The Emperor of the Socotra land asked others. It seems Crown Prince Louis has been captured. Also our only non-official ally, the Dragon Slayer Guild, has been destroyed. Not only that, but also I have heard that our enemy has managed to conquer 3 Western empires within a single night. What's more, it appears the 3 empires had no idea about the attacker. They revealed their identities. The enemy first took out their 5th order cultivators and left the lower order cultivators at the mercy of the Dragonians. In the end, the words left some faces totally shocked with their eyes wide open while others remained calm as they already knew this. Silence. Silence took over the meeting room. No one spoke. Everyone looked at each other's faces. Especially the shocked faces of those emperors were amusing to see. Around 5 minutes later, the man who sat next to the empty chair looked to his right and asked in a trembling tone. Can you accomplish the exact same thing within a single night? Asked Logan Hussein, who was the emperor of the Vermilion Empire. The question was asked to the emperor of the Mountain Light Empire. Hearing this question, the emperor helplessly smiled and replied. It's utterly impossible for my empire to accomplish something like this within a single night. Conquering empires without alerting the enemy, even if the Mountain Light Empire used all of its resources, it still can't accomplish this kind of feat. Forgot about conquering 3 empires, without alerting the enemy. Leighton Valentine wasn't sure if he can even bring his army to the enemy cities. Even though some emperors hated to admit it, the truth was very obvious. No matter how much they tried to deny it, the truth would be still there. The Isteran Empire was too strong. Maybe almost strong as the Echo Nexus Empire. Some emperors secretly began to think that the Isteran Empire might be even stronger than the Echo Nexus Empire, but they didn't say it out loud. I suspect that the Isteran Empire has been planning for this invasion for months. Otherwise, how can they bring their troops to the enemy cities without alerting them? This kind of invasion needs information about each city. Someone must have sided with the enemy. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement. This was the only possible and also reasonable explanation that they can come up with. To think all of this was achieved by a young man who is only 19 years old. It makes me question myself my whole life. What did I do my entire life? I have ruled the Mountain Light Empire for over 100 years now, yet I haven't achieved a fraction of what the Isteran Emperor has managed to achieve in just 9.5 months. Some emperors are just too prideful to admit something like this out loud. Sigh. Hearing this, the other emperors also felt depressed and disrespected. They knew that instead of putting the blames on others' heads, it was their fault. Just imagine. Just how much the Isteran Emperor would achieve if he manages to rule the Isteran Empire for 100 years. Hearing this, everyone felt a chill running down their spine. This was something that was out of their imagination. But they knew one thing for sure, and that was the power structure of the whole world would completely change. Humph. There is no need to imagine such a useless thing. Leighton Valentine, don't tell me that you're scared. The Mystic Spring Empire is a neighbor of the Echo Nexus Empire. The emperor of the Mystic Spring Empire, whose name was Rhys Gilliam, was the #1 bootlicker of the Echo Nexus Empire. The Isteran Empire won't be there after messing with the Echo Nexus Empire and the Oracle Alliance. No matter how much potential that brat has in him, or no matter how strong the current Isteran Empire is, don't forget that he will be facing the whole Oracle Alliance. The Echo Nexus Emperor, His Majesty Luca, is coming. Click. The guard politely opened the door for Luca. Unlike all 11 emperors, the dress that Luca wore made him look like a commoner. But no one dared to look down on him or comment on any word on his clothes. To the eyes of royalty and the nobles, these kinds of clothes are garbage. Luca walked inside the meeting room. He was followed by the Prime Minister, Philip. The emperors and their prime ministers who has been standing behind all were about to greet Luca when he signaled them to stop with a frowning face. Luca sat down on his chair and signaled everyone else to sit down as well. For today we can leave the greetings and the formalities behind. Let's get into the main topic of our discussion. Luca can see that some people here were dissatisfied with him. But he didn't care. For years, these fools have taken benefits from Luca and his Echo Nexus Empire. Making this alliance has helped these fools more than it did the Echo Nexus Empire. After I deal with the Eastern Empire, I will personally settle things with each of you. I assume you all know why I have called for this emergency meeting. Everyone nodded their good. This time, our enemy is the Eastern Empire. In the last 9.5 months, under the rule of a 19-years-old young man, the entire Eastern Empire has changed. Knock. Hearing someone interrupting their meeting, everyone frowned. Especially Luca looked like he would kill that person who dared to interrupt him. Philip, the Prime Minister, quickly took matters into his own hand. I will deal with him. Please continue. As I was saying, Aditya is really dangerous. Last night he took down 3 Western empires. Letting this man grow would only make him more dangerous. Sooner or later, his interest will conflict with our interests. That's why I think we all should unite our military strength to destroy this, Your Majesty. Luca glared at Philip in anger. However, the look on Philip's face told Luca that there must be a big reason for his Prime Minister to interrupt him. Luca somehow controlled his rage. What is it? Hearing the cold tone of the Emperor, Philip's legs began to shake in fear. But he still needed to say it, otherwise, everyone sitting here could be in big trouble. Just now, a letter has been delivered by an elf. This letter came from the celestial terrain. Hearing the name of the celestial terrain regardless of who it was, their faces turned pale. At that moment everyone knew that ignoring the letter of the celestial terrain would be the same as inviting death to kill them. Not even Luca or the Oracle Alliance dared to be arrogant in front of the celestial terrain. Hearing Philip's words, Luca's expression changed. Luca couldn't think why the celestial terrain would suddenly send the Oracle Alliance a letter. This was the first time something like this has happened. The relationship between the Oracle Alliance and the celestial terrain wasn't anything special. None of the members are that close to the celestial terrain. At most, the relationship between the Oracle Alliance members and the celestial terrain was limited to export and import. Luca worriedly thought in his mind. In the past, Luca has tried many times to befriend the Elven Empress, who is also the mother of the goddess of nature. But all of those times Luca's efforts have failed. There was a point when Luca wanted to propose an engagement between the goddess of nature and his son Louis. Luca even personally visited the celestial terrain and met the Elven Empress to discuss the engagement. He tried to tempt the Empress with the countless benefits that both parties would receive from their engagement, but within 5 minutes, even if Luca was disrespected that day, there is nothing that he could do. The celestial terrain was the home of elves. Luca wasn't the first person who tried to befriend the celestial terrain and become their ally. It was a fortunate thing that the celestial terrain wasn't closed to the outside world. Around 99% of the magic fruits that are in the market came from the celestial terrain. Since the celestial terrain has sent a letter to the Oracle Alliance, this means that the matter wasn't a simple thing. Luca opened the letter and began to read. There wasn't much written in the letter. There was only one sentence, but reading that very sentence left Luca's mouth dry. If any Peregrine Imperium gets involved with the matters of the dying continent, the celestial terrain will have no call but to join this war as well. Seeing Luca frozen, others looked at each other in shock. Meanwhile, Philip also read the sentence. As he began reading, drops of sweat began rolling down his neck. When he finished, Philip's entire body was soaked in sweat. What does the letter say? Asked Logan Hussein, the Emperor of the Vermilion Empire. If any foreign empire gets involved with the matters of the dying continent, the celestial terrain will have no choice but to join this war as well. Hearing this, not just Philip, but even other emperors began sweating. Some emperors and their prime ministers began to tremble in fear. Silence. The whole meeting room fell into deadly silence. Everyone had a different expression on their faces. Hearing that the celestial terrain was telling Luca to not get any foreign empire involved in this matter, the 6 foreign empires who were also a part of the Oracle Alliance sighed in relief. It seems as long as they don't participate in this war, nothing will happen to them. In a way, this was good news. 6 of the foreign empires were unwilling to participate in Luca's fight in the first place. Now the celestial terrain's words gave them the perfect excuse to not join this war. They didn't even know the Eastern Emperor. The 6 emperors saw no benefit in joining this meaningless war. Even if they win, it would be the Echo Nexus Empire who takes all the benefits. In the end, they would be just wasting their resources and their troops for nothing. Meanwhile, the other 5 empires that belonged to the dying continent were deeply worried. The celestial terrain words had made them think about the relationship between the Eastern Empire and the celestial terrain. As far as I know, neither the Eastern Emperor or the celestial terrain had made any contact with each other. How come the celestial terrain is suddenly willing to threaten us for the sake of the Eastern Empire? If more than half of the Oracle Alliance members are not allowed to join this war, then it would put more pressure on us. It would force us to deploy more troops and use more resources. Previously I wasn't worried about the war as all the members were going to fight together. This meant that all the resources and the troops that I would need to use in this war would have been negligible. But now Luca would expect the 4 of us to provide him with all the helps that we can give in place of the other 6 empires. Another thing he knew was that when the war would start, he and his empire would become the enemy of the Eastern Empire. And from what he had learned of Aditya, that man was the type who held grudges. Suddenly he was also unwilling to join this war, but he couldn't say it to Luca. The Oracle Alliance was created on the basis that all members would deploy their troops if one or multiple members were attacked by an enemy. In the current situation, many emperors saw their resources and troops getting used by Luca. After a long moment of silence, Luca broke the ice. In this letter, it is stated the foreign alliance empires cannot directly get involved in this war. Meaning that the 6 of you won't be able to send your troops to the battlefield. Hearing this, all 6 emperors inwardly smiled in happiness. Right now, the 6 emperors were repeatedly thanking the Elven Empress in their hearts. However, Luca's next words changed their faces. But that doesn't mean that you six can't indirectly help us out. Since you six can't send your troops, you guys can help us indirectly with funds, food, equipment, cannons, armor, and weapons. Right now their faces looked very ugly. As if they wanted to cry but their eyes had no tears. As if someone had slapped their faces and had turned their faces red. They are in a situation where they wanted to protest, but if they said a single word, their empire would be in deep trouble. Meanwhile, Luca's words had pleased the other 4 empires. The 4 emperors were grinning while staring at the ugly faces of the other 6. Good job. The 4 of them were inwardly praising Luca with all sorts of flattery words. Then, it's settled. Seeing no one objecting to his words, Luca nodded his head with a satisfied look. It's not like anyone can object or show any protest anyway. Not when Luca is here. Philip, I hope you have made preparations for the meeting. Philip nodded his head. Your Majesty, the mirror already has been delivered to the Eastern Empire. Good. Set things up. I want to see that bastard's face. As for the letter that came from the Celestial Terrain, Luca was going to worry about it later. If the Celestial Terrain really wanted to protect the Eastern Empire, then in the letter the Elven Empress would have warned them to not attack the Eastern Empire. But it was clearly mentioned in the letter that no foreign empire was allowed to directly get involved in this war. This meant that the Celestial Terrain wasn't trying to protect the Eastern Empire or anything. Under everyone's gaze, a 2 meters sized mirror was bought by 2 guards. The mirror was placed against the wall so that everyone in the meeting room could see it clearly. Philip looked at Luca to silently ask for the Oracle Alliance leader's approval, to which Luca nodded his head. Scene change ______. In the Dragon Palace, Aditya was sitting on his throne. The black adamantite doomblade could be seen lying next to the throne. When looking at the black sword, people could feel violent killing intent suppressed into this sword and waiting to be unleashed. Aditya was in his regular outfit. Even though Watson advised Aditya to get dressed and also wear the crown before the meeting, the Dragon Monarch didn't listen. These people are not worth it. Why bother being polite and respectful to these people when Aditya knows he will be threatened in this meeting? Luca was probably going to use the Oracle Alliance to pressure Aditya and would ask him to hand over his son. Watson and Spencer were standing in front of Aditya. Watson had a bright glowing round-shaped crystal in his hand. The crystal was given to Watson by the envoy of the Echo Nexus Empire. The sign of this crystal glowing meant that the meeting was going to start now. Watson looked at Aditya to ask for his silent approval, to which he replied by nodding his head. Without wasting any second, the former Prime Minister inserted a bit of his mana into the glowing crystal in his palms. As soon as his mana reached the crystal, the round-shaped crystal began to float. Seeing this, Spencer and Watson stepped back. While the round-shaped crystal started floating in the air. The bright light coming from the crystal intensified. The next second the intense bright that covered the entire throne hall began to dim down. The crystal had changed its shape and had turned into thin 2 meters long glass. Aditya narrowed his eyes as he stared at the 22 faces that appeared on the glass. Among the 22 faces, Aditya recognized a few of them. As Watson had shown him their portrait. Even though he didn't know who the Echo Nexus Emperor was. Even though he didn't know how the Echo Nexus Emperor looked, just from that man's unique aura alone, Aditya was able to guess who the Echo Nexus Emperor was. It was the man who sat in the very middle. Behind him, there was an old man who Aditya guessed to be the Prime Minister of the Echo Nexus Empire. So every member of the Oracle Alliance is here with their Prime Minister. Aditya thought as he observed each face. Just one look for him was enough to remember these faces for the rest of his life thanks to his sharp memory. All-seeing mirror. Peak 4-star. Description: a mysterious artifact that was found in an old ruin. The origin of this artifact remains mysterious to this day. Some scholars believe that this artifact used to belong to one of the heroes who defeated the demons and finally ended the Age of Cruelty era. While some firmly believe that this mysterious artifact belonged to one of the demon commanders. Some even say that this mysterious artifact existed even before the Age of Cruelty era and belonged to one of the superpowers of that time. Over the 100,000 years, the quality and many functions of this mysterious artifact were lost, resulting in the rank of this artifact dropping from 5-star to peak 4-star. One of the core functions of the all-seeing mirror was to allow the user to teleport anywhere on this planet. The core function of this powerful artifact has been lost. Function 1, using the all-seeing mirror, 2 parties can see and communicate other even if both parties are continents apart. The all-seeing mirror has 10 round-shaped crystal orbs. As long as the second party has one of the crystal orbs, the second party would be able to use the first function. Function 2, the all-seeing mirror can see through any illusion under the 5th order. Aditya wasn't interested in what dress the Echo Nexus Emperor or any other emperors wore. He wasn't interested in any of the prime ministers either. The same could be said for Luca as well. Watson and Spencer were able to see the faces of the 11 emperors and their prime ministers from the other side. Meanwhile, on the other side _______. In the mirror, a handsome young man appeared to be sitting on his throne and staring at them. He was neither otherworldly handsome nor ugly. He had unique blue long hair. He had crimson pupils. Staring at those eyes, the emperors felt as if they were looking at the wild beast. Those eyes of his were calm. His eyes were so calm that the emperors found it disturbing. The crimson color of his eyes seems to represent his violent and his ruthless nature. The crimson color reflected the color of his skin. It reflected the millions of lives that this man had taken. Sitting on his throne, the young man stared at the 11 emperors with a calm face that made them think as if he was looking down on them. Just like Luca, who had the aura of a king around him. The young man also had a special aura around him that made others feel inferior. He is even younger than my son. To think, at such a young age, he has managed to achieve so much. The Vermilion Emperor was impressed with Aditya. He was so young yet his actions were so mature. So you're Aditya. Finally, after staring at the man who had destroyed the Dragon Slayer Guild and who had captured his dear son for a long time, the Echo Nexus Emperor broke the silence. I assume you're Luca. Humph. To which Luca snorted as his expression became more arrogant. Seeing how young Aditya was, Luca felt his confidence increase. His thoughts were, no matter how much Aditya has accomplished, at the end of the day his experience can never match Luca, who has been ruling the Echo Nexus Empire for many centuries. There is no way that I would lose to a 19-year-old boy who has just grown his balls. These were Luca's thoughts. Brat, it seems your parents didn't teach you well. They forgot to teach you the difference between a dragon and an ant. But no worries, in their place, I will educate you. Hearing Luca's comparison, neither Watson or Aditya nor Spencer was able to stop themselves from laughing out loud. Suddenly, Aditya started laughing while holding his stomach. Ha ha ha. That was a nice joke. Aditya said while giving thumbs up to Luca. Seeing this, Lucas gritted his teeth while tightly clenching his fists. His eyes turned red from anger. His shoulders were shaking in anger. If Aditya was in front of him, Luca already would have attacked Aditya in anger. Seeing this, the other emperors and their prime ministers all felt ashamed. Did you seriously compare yourself to a dragon? I guess, you're stupid like your son. Aditya's words left Luca a little confused. During the goblin invasion, I am sure you all have heard of a dragon evolving his bloodline to divine rank. Aditya looked at Luca with a smirk. What are you trying to say? Asked the infamous bootlicker of Luca, Rhys Gilliam, who was the emperor of the Mystic Spring Empire. Idiots, I guess you don't know. If only you guys had done a little bit deeper research on my life. Hearing this, every emperor felt anger building up in their hearts. Let me introduce myself. I am Aditya, the only dragon in history with Crimson Divine Dragon bloodline. I am the Dragon Monarch. I am the king of all dragons. And I am your destruction. Just as these words were spoken out, Luca felt as if he was hit with lightning bolts. Luca and his prime minister widened their eyes in deep shock. Meanwhile, the other emperors and their prime ministers' faces turned pale as they remembered the destruction Aditya had done to the goblin race. For months everyone in the meeting room has been trying to find the identity of the man who had divine bloodline. This same man was the fiancé of the goddess of alchemy. No one thought that Aditya was that person. Now I finally understand why that bastard suddenly allied with the Eastern Empire. Luca has thought about the Echo Dominion Emperor. After the goblin invasion, Luca was confused to find the Echo Dominion Empire, who was their biggest enemy and their rival, allying themselves with the Eastern Empire. After a few months of seeing the exponential rise of the Eastern Empire, Luca assumed that the Echo Dominion Emperor was trying to increase its influence by allying itself with a rising powerhouse. Now it all finally made sense to him. As Aditya was the son-in-law of the honored family head. And as the honored family served the Echo Dominion Empire, it's only natural for the Echo Dominion Empire and the Eastern Empire to become allies. He words Aditya said shocked each one of them. Now in their eyes, Aditya had become a much bigger level of threat. I don't care if you're the divine dragon. I don't care if you're the fiancé of the goddess of alchemy. I don't care if you're emperor of the Eastern Empire, and I really don't care if you call yourself Dragon Monarch or whatever. You have dared to harm my son. You have captured the crown prince of the Echo Nexus Empire. You have destroyed one of our allies. The Oracle Alliance and the Echo Nexus Empire will settle matters through war. Hearing this, Aditya just smiled and said nothing in response. In Aditya's eyes, Luca was currently being ignorant, overconfident, prideful, and arrogant. It was clear that this man needed a reality check, but unfortunately, being the emperor of such a powerful empire and with the backing of the Oracle Alliance, no one can do anything to him. These traits of his will definitely bring him to his knees. Eastern Emperor, I am giving you exactly 24 hours to release my son. Within 24 hours, if the crown prince of the Echo Nexus Empire isn't sent home, I swear on this empire's name, this will be more than just a war. Hearing this, Aditya finally stopped smiling and seriously looked at Luca. Old man, perhaps living for more than 700+ years has clouded your sense of judgment. I think you don't understand the current situation. Your son is in my prison. Why the hell I should let him go? Aditya wasn't going to let Louis leave like that. Judging from the words of the Echo Nexus Emperor, it was clear that even if Aditya releases Luca, a war was inevitable. And as for Luca's threats, Aditya wasn't bothered about it. Since you want war, the Eastern Empire will give you one. At this point, Aditya was fed up. The interests of the Eastern Empire and the Oracle Alliance were bound to clash at some point in the future. Both empires had different policies and interests. Meaning that a war was going to happen between them regardless of Aditya's actions. This war was a good chance to eliminate the big fishes and take complete dominance of the entire dying Al continent. Hearing this, Luca gritted his teeth. He was hoping to use the Oracle Alliance to pressure Aditya into releasing his son. And once his son was released, he was going to attack the Eastern Empire. But Aditya did not follow the script that Luca had thought in his mind. Seeing the expression on Luca's face, Aditya was satisfied, but he wasn't done yet. The next second, Aditya's expression turned dark. His eyes started glowing dangerously. His aura became cold. He put his right elbow on the armrest and supported his face on his palm. The Eastern Empire is taking proper care of Louis. Every single day my servants have been working really hard. Don't worry, I am feeding your son 3 meals per day. He is getting regular body massages. Since he has nothing to do in the prison, I even made him do some workouts so that he won't gain any fat. Everyone was confused between Aditya's cold voice and his words. Snap. Before Luca could say anything, the next second with a snap, a figure suddenly teleported in front of the throne. Seeing the figure, Luca and other emperors stood up in deep shock. Luca couldn't just bring himself to believe that this was his beloved son. In just a single day, he had changed so much. His appearance was even worse than a beggar's. His hair was dirty and disheveled. His entire body was covered in a mix of dried blood and mud. His clothes had been torn apart. The crown prince looked really weak. There was still a trail of blood coming from his mouth. His nose has been broken and disfigured. The more Luca watched, the more intense his emotions became. Luca loved his son more than he loved his whole family together. There were countless wounds all around Louis's body. Louis looked in the mirror. Seeing the face of his father, his lifeless eyes regained some hope. Dad, please save me. Louis pleaded to Luca with tears falling from his eyes. Ever since he was captured by the Eastern Emperor, his life had become a living hell. He wasn't just physically tortured. He was tortured mentally as well. He was tortured to the point where he was begging his own father with tears to save him. Son. Seeing this, Luca's heart was in deep pain. At this moment, arrogance, overconfidence, and pride, nothing remained on Luca's face. Luca looked like a desperate father. Seeing the look on Luca's face, Aditya coldly smiled before he went to kick Louis in front of everyone. Bang! Louis's head hit the floor and started bleeding. Bastard! Bang! Luca smashed the table. His eyes completely turned red from anger. The emperor's entire body was trembling in anger. Never in his life, Luca had felt such humiliation and pain. Now you realize the position you're in. Luca, if you surrender your empire to the Eastern Empire, then I might consider letting your son lives. Aditya was testing the water. He wanted to see how far Luca was willing to go for the sake of his son. Hearing Aditya's words, Luca's entire body trembled. Luca looked at his son, who was also looking at Luca with a hopeful gaze. But seeing his father not speaking, a bad feeling rose in Louis's heart. Time passed quickly. And soon everyone found the emperor standing and looking at his son silently for over 5 minutes. With each passing second, the suffocation in the meeting room grew. And with each passing second, Louis soon began to understand the answer that his father was about to give. No. Louis refused to acknowledge the reality. Never did Louis think that a day would come when his father would abandon him. Luca looked at his son with a sad face. Forgive me, my son. But I am not going to give up on this empire. I have built this empire. I can have another son, but I cannot have another empire. Hearing this, Louis's eyes became lifeless. He knew that he was abandoned. Louis thought that Luca loved him more than anyone in this world, but today that very same father abandoned him at the mercy of the enemy. Don't worry. Soon I will end the Eastern Empire. I will rescue you. Snap. Aditya had seen enough. So with a snap, he sent Louis back to prison. Aditya wasn't going to kill Louis now. Not until he defeated Luca and the Oracle Alliance. You have no idea what you just provoked. The current Luca was a man who had learned to control his emotions. The rage in his heart was slowly building up. Let's start this war. Saying that, Aditya destroyed the mirror with a small crimson lightning bolt. Aditya knew that this war wasn't going to be easy like the other wars that he has fought. In this war, Aditya will be fighting against someone who didn't lack resources, soldiers, equipment, and weapons. After the meeting ended, there was silence in the throne hall. Aditya appeared to be thinking something. A few minutes later, Watson broke the silence and asked. Your Majesty, what should we do now? First, let our allies know about the war. I want to have a meeting with the Echo Dominion Emperor and with our other allies. Spencer, please arrange it for me. I want to meet him today itself. Watson, please send a letter to father informing him about the war. Spencer and Watson nodded both of their heads. Your Majesty, are you planning on requesting help from the celestial terrain? Because Aditya knew what Luca wanted, he was able to ask the 11 Empress for a favor through Rhea. Because of Aditya, the letter was sent to the Oracle Alliance. The purpose of asking the Elven Empress's help was to prevent any foreign power from helping the enemy in this war. Right now, though this war is going to be tough, I am confident that we will be able to fight them without needing the celestial terrain's help. Aditya wasn't going to involve anyone from outside the dying Al continent in this war. That means the Ethereal Empire also can't participate in this war and help the Eastern Empire. In a way, this war would determine the next superpower of this continent. This was an internal conflict. So Aditya didn't want to involve any foreign powers in this war. Aditya was keeping the Ethereal Empire and the Celestial Terrain as backup support. If he faces a situation where the Eastern Empire absolutely needs support, only then he was going to involve them in this war. Today the weather is really nice. Everything feels peaceful. Yeah. It's not bad to take a break once in a while. Sitting under a large oak tree in their garden, Adam and Sophia were enjoying their afternoon tea. Today the weather was really peaceful. The sun was hidden by the clouds. Gentle cold northern wind currents were making their time in the garden even more pleasant. Normally the Duke and family would be having lunch at this time. Since their second child, Zach, had gone to school and wouldn't come back before evening, they decided to skip lunch and enjoy their time in the garden with tea. Leaning his back against the trunk of the oak tree, Adam put his head on Sophia's right shoulder and looked in the distance. It's peaceful. But I strangely get the feeling that this peace is just silence before the storm. Adam said while remembering the shock that he got this morning. Flashback ______. After having a light balanced meal with his family, the head of the honored family, Duke Adam went to his study room to work. As he had left for over a month, a lot of work still remains pending. On Adam's desk, there were multiple mountains of papers that needed his attention. Sigh. Looking at the mountain of papers on his desk, Adam deeply sighed. The man who once was known as the Wild Lion of Echo Dominion now had been tamed by mountains of papers. I miss my old days when I used to sleep on the battlefield. But what can poor Adam do? His wife Sophia had asked if he needed her help, but the man was too prideful to let his woman work. Now Adam was kind of regretting this. Adam picked up one of the papers and read it. Pardon me, Your Grace. They came in the night and took the life of some of the villagers. Friends, family, husbands, and wives were gone in a flash. We know who did it, but we lack the power to avenge our fallen. Please, hero, be our vengeance and unleash our fury upon those abominable beings. Unfortunately, I cannot join you, but I have faith in you, and I know you'll succeed. There'll be no match for you, those beings. You can take out as many of them as you like, the fewer of those low lives there are in this world, the better. We don't have enough money to hire adventurers. We could only place our hope on the honored family. But we'll still be able to reward you with something decent. Adam checked the date. He found that this letter was sent to the honored family around 4 days ago. The village head of Spring Village has written this letter to the honored family requesting help. Sigh. This wasn't the first time that the people of this territory had asked for his help. Adam always tries his best to help out the people who lived in his territory. Another pending matter. I should just hire someone who would do these small tasks. Putting the paper aside, Adam picked up another letter and began to read what was written on it. Budget report of the last month. 10,000 gold coins on salaries. 5,000 gold coins on food. 12,000 on armor and potions. Dash. This was Adam's regular job. The territory of a duke was very big. While Abigail City was the main city within Adam's territory, there were other small cities, towns, and villages that Adam needed to look after as well. To make things easier, the duke was allowed to give the rank of barons and knights to trustworthy men. The barons were in charge of the smaller cities and towns while the knights were in charge of the villages. Each month the nobles under Adam gave him report on their budget and on their earnings and other important things. Since Adam was left for over a month, a lot of work was pending for him. Knock. Knock. Walter, you can come in. Adam was able to sense Walter's aura. Click. Opening the wooden door, Watson's twin brother walked inside. This was Walter. Unlike Watson, Walter was already married and had a family of his own. But compared to Watson, Walter looked much older. He had hair white and his skin was wrinkled. If both Watson and Walter stood together, then no one would say that both of them are twins, as Watson currently looks like he is 45 years old while Walter looks like a 69-year-old grandpa. Walter, I am not in the mood of drinking anything. Adam said without looking at Walter. Adam just had breakfast around 30 minutes ago. He had no appetite for tea or snacks right now. Adam thought that Walter was here to give him tea and some snacks. Your Grace, this isn't about tea and snacks. This is a very serious matter. Walter wasn't the type to become serious easily. But when he did become serious, it means that something very serious has happened. So hearing Walter's serious tone, Adam immediately turned his full attention to Walter. What happened? Walter looked very serious. He was deeply frowning at the same time. Walter only makes this kind of face when something really bad or something really shocking has happened. And Adam has seen this face of Walter only a few times throughout his life. Your Grace, I think it would be better if Her Grace was also here. Her Grace also needs to hear this. All right. Someone call Sophia here. Adam said in a loud voice. A few minutes later, Sophia was sitting next to Adam and looking at Walter. Walter, what is it? You're making us nervous. Your Grace, something very shocking happened yesterday. And it's related to the Eastern Empire. Aditya. Hearing this, both Sophia and Adam wondered what Aditya had done this time. It only had been one day since they returned from that icy shattered ruin world. Adam thought Aditya would take things easy, but it seems he was wrong. Your Grace, you should know about the Dragon Slayer Guild and how they sent its members to kill Aditya. To which Adam and Sophia nodded both of their heads. Yesterday, the Eastern Emperor personally went to the Dragon Slayer Guild and destroyed everything. No one from the Dragon Slayer Guild was spared. But this was just the beginning. Both Adam and Sophia widened their eyes in deep shock. Both of them knew that Aditya had directly messed with the Oracle Alliance. Adam and Sophia would guess how the Oracle Alliance was going to retaliate. His Majesty, Aditya didn't stop there. When the Crown Prince of the Echo Nexus Empire tried to stop him, Aditya captured Louis instead and put him in prison. The very same night, His Majesty went on to destroy 3 Western empires and gained full control of those 3 empires. Now the Shadow Islands Empire, the Kezia Empire, and the Niwan Empire have become a territory of the Isteran Empire. Hiss. Hearing all of this, both Adam and Sophia shivered. This was just too much for them to take at once. There must be a good reason for Aditya's actions. Saying these words, Adam tried to calm himself. But unfortunately, Walter wasn't done yet. And lastly, the Oracle Alliance and the Isteran Empire, both have declared war on each other. But in this war, no foreign empires are not allowed to join. This means the empires that are located in the dying Al continent can participate in this war. If anyone breaks this law, then the celestial terrain would personally intervene and take matters into their hands. Boom. Both Adam and Sophia's minds froze in shock. By now the news had spread throughout the entire continent and was spreading throughout other continents like wildfire. Since the celestial terrain made this law, no other foreign empire or force dared to take part in it. Everyone's attention was on the Oracle Alliance and on the Isteran Empire. End of flashback _______. Do you think Aditya can win this war? Sophia asked while gently stroking Adam's hair. I have fought beside Aditya 2 times. The first time was during the Goblin invasion and the second time was when we were trapped in the icy shattered ruin. Ruin. Trust me, no one else knows about Aditya's power better than I do. Becoming his enemy was the worst mistake any empire could make. While saying these words, Adam was also getting excited at the thought of fighting beside Aditya for a 3rd time. Adam would love to see Aditya taking on armies alone. Just the thought of it excited the wild lion. While Sophia and Adam were enjoying their time, Walter came to them with a letter. Your Grace, His Majesty wants you to go to the capital as soon as possible. Other dukes also have been summoned. Hearing this, Adam stood up and looked at the sky. It's time to work. Really, thank you very much to all those. As soon as both the Oracle Alliance and the Isteran Empire declared war on each other, it sent shockwaves throughout the 6 continents. Even some people who lived on the main continent heard of the news and were surprised. This war between the Oracle Alliance and the Isteran Empire would be the largest and fiercest war fought in the last 500 years history of the dying Al continent. The news itself had brought unrest among the common and peasant class people. As these 2 classes, people suffer the most during times of war. Fortunately, the citizens of the Isteran Empire were not that worried. This wasn't the first time their emperor has gone to war with another big empire. In fact, the Isteran Empire fought wars in a way that the common and peasant class people couldn't even feel the ripple effect of the war. Commonly when a war takes place, the prices of commodities spike, which severely affects the common and peasant class population within the empire. At the same time, an empire wouldn't hesitate to increase the tax to raise enough funds to continue the war. The economy of an empire may suffer devastating impacts during and after a time of war. Everyday activities of a community or empire are disrupted and properties may be damaged. When people become misplaced, they cannot continue to work or keep their businesses open, causing damage to the economy of the empires involved. The empire decides to direct money to fund war efforts, leaving other institutions with little or no available budget. But in the Isteran Empire, the prices of commodities never increased. It always remained the same. The tax wasn't increased. No property was ever damaged. The people weren't forced to move from one city to another. And even if a situation like that did occur, the empire would send relief funds. Every empire and kingdom in the dying Al continent had to take a stance. Everyone had to pick one side. It's a completely different matter whether they joined the war. As the winner of this war would decide the new superpower of the dying Al continent. Most kingdoms were fed up with the Echo Nexus Empire for years. They wanted to see the Echo Nexus Empire fall. Some wanted the Isteran Empire to become the new superpower of the continent. While some kingdoms that had received help from the Echo Nexus Empire chose to support Luca and the Oracle Alliance. And a few kingdoms and dynasties remained neutral in this matter. But it was clear that the entire dying Al continent currently was divided in 2. One side wanted to see change and wanted a new power to rise. While the other side wanted the current order to remain and didn't want a new superpower to emerge. As they feared that the change in superpower would affect them and their interest. In all of this, the Hephaestus Kingdom, which previously used to be an empire but was destroyed by the Echo Nexus Empire, and the Oracle Alliance openly supported the Isteran Empire. The Hephaestus Empire was a victim of the Oracle Alliance's bullying. Luca did not like the Hephaestus Emperor who went against his interest. So Luca decided to kill the Hephaestus Emperor and place a puppet that would listen to Luca. At the same time, it was because of the actions of the Oracle Alliance that the peaceful Hephaestus Kingdom had now turned into a criminal hub. It had become a place where publicly killing people had become very normal. Where publicly doing crime is very normal. Where soldiers and the nobles are not respected. However, the puppet that Luca placed didn't want to be under Luca's control. He wanted his kingdom to be free from the Oracle Alliance and its big influence. Also, he wanted to get revenge for the death of his uncle who was the previous emperor. The current situation was in favor of the Hephaestus Kingdom. In the Western Empire. Around a month and a half ago, the princess of the Mist Ocean Empire was kidnapped by the commander of the Ageless Islands Empire. Learning that his only daughter and family member has been kidnapped by their rival's commander, the Mist Ocean Emperor was furious and demanded his daughter be given back. An hour later, he learned that his daughter had been killed. The pain of losing his only family member and his only daughter drove the Mist Ocean Emperor to war with the Ageless Islands Empire without caring about the consequences of his actions. He didn't care that his war was going to affect his people. He didn't care that this war would severely affect his empire's economy. He didn't care that this war might end up crippling his empire. All he cared was about getting revenge. Since the war between the Mist Ocean Empire and the Ageless Empire started, two other empires also jumped in. Those two empires were the Cloud Earth Empire and the Storm Empire. Both empires were big rivals of each other for centuries. The Mist Ocean Empire was backed by the Cloud Earth Empire while the Ageless Islands Empire was backed by the Storm Empire. What they didn't know was that the Eastern Empire was responsible for all of this. Since all 7 Western empires were planning on uniting their military strength to take down the Eastern Empire, Aditya created a big misunderstanding between them and which started a war. And Aditya wasn't guilty about it. He just played the game smartly. With each passing day, the war became more and more dangerous. More and more people were killed with each passing. The ones that suffered the most in this war were the common class people. Within the time frame of 1.5 months, numerous battles were fought. All 4 empires lost lots of troops and resources in that period. But today, on the 47th day of the war, the 4 Western emperors learned very shocking news. It was news that shocked them to their very core. Just the news, none of the emperors were able to believe it till they saw it with their own eyes. The news was so shocking and terrifying that the 4 empires who had been fighting each other had to put a temporary stop to the war and come together for a meeting. The 4 great remaining emperors of the Western region were currently sitting around a big square-shaped table. The meeting was taking place outside the 4 empires. It was taking place in a kingdom that was located at the very center of the Western region. Previously, whenever a meeting was called, all 7 great emperors would gather. But now their numbers had decreased to 4. This once again made them realize while they were busy fighting each other, their enemy had sneaked in and taken down 3 great emperors. The Ageless Islands Emperor Larry Franks and the Storm Emperor Uriel Gonzalez were sitting next to each other. Their closeness symbolized the great friendship that these 2 emperors had between them. Sitting opposite them were the Mist Ocean Emperor Joshua Andrews and the Cloud Earth Emperor Apollo Gamble. Both Joshua and Apollo were sitting close to each other and glaring at the other party. In response, Larry and Uriel also glared back. This continued for a while. As a result, no words were spoken in the meeting room. Sigh. Let's stop with this. The Cloud Earth Emperor Apollo Gamble broke the silence within the meeting room, causing the other 3 to look at him. The current situation is more dangerous than we think. Within a single night, the Western empires were conquered by the Eastern Emperor. I suspect Aditya has been planning this since the very day when the war started. Last month Aditya wasn't seen anywhere. I think he and his men had secretly infiltrated the 3 empires. Yesterday happened to be the night when he and his men finally took action. The other 3 emperors nodded their response. Apollo's words made sense. Aditya had disappeared for over a month. When he finally appeared, he took down the 3 great emperors. They also felt that Aditya was secretly preparing for this in the last month. Even if Larry and Uriel did not like Apollo, they had to agree with Apollo's words. Normally, this entire situation would have been very bad news for us. But by luck, we also have good news that will help us immensely. You mean the Oracle Alliance and the Echo Nexus Empire? Asked Larry. The 4 emperors knew what Aditya did to the Dragon Slayer Guild and to the Crown Prince. Yes. The 4 emperors grinned, knowing what they needed to do now. Let's put a temporary stop to this war between us. For now, let's join our military on taking down the Eastern Empire with the Echo Nexus Empire and the Oracle Alliance's help. Then we can settle our own matters. The other 3 emperors nodded in heads in agreement. Thus, an agreement between the 4 emperors was made. In the throne hall of the Echo Dominion Empire. Slender braziers surrounding each of the 14 marble columns light up every part of the throne hall and bathe the hall in a dancing glow of orange. The gemmed runes on the rounded ceiling dance in the flickering light while gargoyles look down upon the limestone floor of this imposing hall. A lavender rug runs from the throne to the doors and is matched by smaller ones on either side of the hall, while matching banners with adorned quilting hang from the walls. Between each banner sits a small altar full of candles. They've all been lit and in turn illuminate the depictions of heroes and kings of the empire below them. Slim windows are shrouded by veils colored the same lavender as the banners. The curtains have been adorned with burnished corners and jewels. A grandiose throne of porcelain sits below a grand chandelier made out of lunar crystal and is adjoined by 3 equally impressive seats for those closest to the royal highness. The throne is covered in hallowed motifs and fixed on each of the front legs is a sparkling lion's head. The soft pillows are light lavender and these too have been adorned with adorned borders. Those expecting an audience with their royal highness can do so on the countless brightly decorated maple benches, all of which are facing the throne in a V-shape. Those of higher standing can instead take seats in the extremely lavish balconies facing the benches below. Normally the throne hall of the Echo Dominion Empire would be filled with people. But today, the entire throne hall was empty. Only the emperor, his guards, and the nobles whom he summoned were present. Your Majesty, it has been a while since I last saw you. Right now Duke Adam, Duke Elliot Campbell, and other powerful nobles of the Echo Dominion Empire were kneeling before the emperor. It only has been a few months since I last saw you, Adam, said the man who was sitting on the throne. The man was wearing luxurious clothes and a golden cape was covering his back. He was 5 feet 10 inches tall. He had a lean body and fair skin. He had short black spiky hair. He had a slightly above average, handsome looking face. The most noticeable thing about him was the golden crown that had 9 different colored jewels on it. Daxton Ferguson looked at Adam and felt that the wild lion had changed a little bit. Daxton has heard rumors about Adam suddenly disappearing around a month ago. But Daxton didn't believe in those rumors at the beginning. But after a month, Daxton was becoming suspicious. He was planning on sending a few of his spies to check things out. But fortunately, Adam returned. Since Adam did not talk about his disappearance, Daxton did not question him. Daxton trusted Adam. Adam controlled 25% of the Echo Dominion Empire's military. He knew Adam wouldn't do anything to betray the Empire. As for his private life matter, Daxton saw no reason to interfere. Daxton's eyes then moved to the person who was kneeling next to Adam. He was Duke Elliot Campbell. Daxton knew about the bitter rivalry between the houses of Campbell and Honored. For generations, their families have been rivals, which was a good thing in Daxton's opinion. As long as both noble families didn't go as far as to kill each other, Daxton kept silent about the entire matter just like his father did. Before the Honored family was blessed with the goddess of alchemy, the power of both noble families was equal. But after Julia was born, slowly the power shifted more towards the Honored family. As of now, the Campbell family controls around 10% of the entire Empire's military. Duke Campbell, how are you doing? I heard that you're preparing for your son's marriage. Is that true? Daxton was talking about Duke Campbell's only son who is going to be the next head of the Campbell family. Lucian Campbell. The very same man who once held the ambition of marrying Julia and using her alchemy powers for his own benefit. Before the Goblin invasion, he even came and challenged Aditya to a duel during Julia's birthday. But later, the duel never happened as Lucian Campbell was shown the power difference between them in the Goblin invasion. Hearing Daxton's words, Adam was surprised. It seems I have missed out on many things. Adam thought in his head. Duke Elliot Campbell did not try to hide this. He calmly nodded his head. Since his plan of getting Julia married to his son had failed, Duke Elliot Campbell had found another candidate. She is the daughter of a viscount from another continent. Your Majesty, if everything goes well, then in a few months' time, we will hold an engagement ceremony. Daxton nodded his head. You all can stand now. Suddenly the friendly tone of the Emperor changed. Daxton spoke seriously. The friendly smile on his face was long gone and was replaced with a frown. As you all know, the Eastern Empire is a big ally of ours. Now that our biggest rival, the Echo Nexus Empire, has declared war on the Eastern Empire, it's time for us to decide whether we will be participating in this war. Hearing this, everyone straightened their backs and seriously began to think. I have summoned you all here to hear your opinion on this matter. I am debating whether our empire should participate in this war or stay out of it. It's true that the Echo Dominion Empire is an ally of the Eastern Empire, but Daxton has to think about his own empire before helping out his allies. If Echo Dominion Empire joined this war, then the Echo Nexus Empire and the members of the Oracle Alliance will target the Echo Dominion Empire first. The Eastern Empire is located in other regions, but the situation in the Northwest region is different. The Echo Dominion Empire is surrounded by the Oracle Alliance members. Excluding the Echo Dominion Empire, there are 6 empires and 1 kingdom in the Northwestern region. There is the Echo Nexus Empire, the Echo Dominion Empire, the Mystic Spring Empire, the Hephaestus Kingdom, the Mythia Empire, the Kaisha Empire, the Uzakan Empire, and the Queenstown Empire. At a certain point in time, all of these, every faction in the Northwest region used to be an empire, which goes to show just how advanced the Northwest region was compared to other regions in the dying All continent. The Hephaestus Kingdom used to be an empire before the Echo Nexus Empire killed the emperor of the Hephaestus Empire. The Hephaestus Kingdom lost its former powers and glory and fell into the ranks of a kingdom. At its best, the Hephaestus Kingdom can be considered a 4-tier powerhouse. If the Echo Dominion Empire joined this war, most probably the Oracle Alliance was going to attack the Echo Dominion Empire from all sides. If that happens, not even the Eastern Empire would be able to help them. Knowing this, Daxton felt hesitant and confused. Although he wanted to help out the Eastern Empire, he was that his empire would become the battleground. And Daxton wasn't sure if his empire can withstand attacks from all sides. Your Majesty, we should just stay out of this. Yes, we can provide support to the Eastern Empire by giving them resources, but directly joining this war would bring us too much trouble. I don't think the current empire can withstand attack from all sides. Duke Campbell voiced his opinion. Hearing this, Daxton deeply began to think. He was considering Daxton's idea. A part of him wanted to do what Campbell suggested to him. But a part of him was hesitant to take such actions. Your Majesty, I think we should join this war. Trust me, when I say the Eastern Empire is going to win, I am not lying. I have seen what the Empire is capable of. There is no doubt in my mind that the Eastern Empire will become victorious in this war. Adam was 100% certain that Aditya will win. Let's say we decided to remain neutral in this whole war. Since we as their ally hadn't helped them during this war, the relationship between the Eastern Empire and our empire will become very stiff. That would be a big loss for our empire. When that happens, even I won't be able to do anything to repair this stiff relationship between the two empires. Meanwhile, others felt confused hearing Adam's last sentence. Even Campbell looked confused. We have been troubled by the Oracle Alliance for years now. Over the years, the tension between the Oracle Alliance and our empire has been rising. The Oracle Alliance has been regularly sending their troops to our borders. I know about the situation in the borders better than anyone else, as I have spent a few years fighting them. Adam gained his Wild Lion nickname during that time. Adam alone guarded the northern border of the Echo Dominion Empire with just 1,000 troops. It was at that time when the world got to see just how wild Adam can become. Campbell stared at Adam and remembered a rumor that he heard a long time ago. To this day, Duke Campbell is not sure if those rumors are true or not. These rumors had frightened Campbell. According to the rumors, Adam was surrounded by 300 peak Third Order soldiers. At that time Adam was also a peak Third Order cultivator. He was badly injured. Both of his arms were broken. But even with broken arms and an injured body, the man managed to slaughter Peak's Third Order soldier and before finally losing consciousness. It was said that the fight went on for more than 2 days. Even with his injured body, he managed to hold on. Who would want to face a wild beast like Adam? This is a great chance. We can take part in this war and finally get our revenge. Everyone was once again reminded why Adam is called the Wild Lion of Echo Dominion. After Adam finished his words, everyone deeply started to think. Adam's words had made Daxton rethink this entire matter from a different angle. My mind is telling me that supporting Aditya in his war would lead to the end of my empire. But my heart is telling me otherwise. I feel if I miss out, the entire Echo Dominion empire will make a huge loss. Daxton stared into Adam's eyes. Daxton never questioned Adam's loyalty. He knew even if the world were to end, Adam would never betray this empire. Aditya is his son-in-law. Adam knows more about Aditya and the Eastern Empire than me. And I am sure Adam knows what he is suggesting. I have made up my mind. The Echo Dominion Empire and the Eastern Empire are close allies. Hence, we won't let our ally go to this battlefield alone. The Echo Dominion Empire will help the Eastern Empire in this war. While doing so, we will also get our revenge on our greatest rival. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Going into war would mean that we would be facing enemies from all sides. Facing attacks from all sides, I don't think we can hold on till the Eastern Empire's troops arrive. I know you all are worried. But Aditya is my son-in-law. I know him very well. Did you guys forget what he did during the Goblin invasion? Now that his strength has grown, he can wipe out an entire army with a single attack. How can we lose when we have someone like him on our side? Adam, what are you saying? How did the Eastern Emperor become your son-in-law? Duke Campbell and others were still confused. Even though Adam's son-in-law and the Eastern Emperor had the same name, they always thought that both were different persons. Adam is not lying. The Eastern Emperor is the future husband of the goddess of alchemy. Your Majesty, a letter from the Eastern Empire has arrived. Aditya wants to meet you and talk about this war. Daxton took the letter from the guard and read it for a minute before nodding his head in agreement. You're right. I will have to make this trip to the Eastern Empire. Campbell and Adam, come with me. Hearing the words of the Emperor, Campbell nodded his head. After so many months, Campbell wanted to see with his very own eyes just how far that monster had grown. Meanwhile, at the Eastern Empire. Your Majesty, they are here. Aditya, who was making plans with Watson, stopped and raised his head. Bring them here. With his order, the big metals of the throne hall were opened by the guards. As soon as both doors were opened, Aditya got to see more than 10,000 soldiers. Under Spencer's signal, all of them slowly walked inside the throne hall. A whole minute later, the whole throne hall was filled with soldiers. This was the first time that the throne hall had this many people. Aditya wasn't the type of king who would invite poets and musicians to his court to sing or make poetry for him. He would rather spend his time with his wives than listen to poetry and songs. Of course, poetry and songs had their own beauty and Aditya appreciated good poetry, but he didn't like poetry to the point where he would spend hours listening to it. This is why Throne Hall always had very few visitors. In fact, unlike other kings, Aditya very rarely sat on the throne. When he did, it would only be when he is meeting someone or having an important discussion with his people. I won't take your time. I know that you all have to prepare for the upcoming war. Since all of you are here, that means you're eligible to become Dragonians. Aditya can see the excitement in the eyes of the soldiers. It was to be excited. After all, the rank of the Dragonian was even higher than the elite soldier's rank. When a soldier within the 7 divisions became a Dragonian, their ranks within the 7 divisions also rises. Their salaries and the benefits that they received were also increased. Compared to a normal soldier, a Dragonian received 10 royal gold coins per month as a salary. Other than doing missions given by their captains and sub-captains and other than participating in combat when needed, the Dragonians are given free time to cultivate. Unlike soldiers who are given various kinds of duties, Dragonians are given more resources and time to cultivate. While a normal soldier could only dream of cultivating inside the Dragon Palace, a Dragonian can come and cultivate inside the Dragon Palace depending on his rank and on his merit. The Eastern Empire focuses on rising the strength of the Dragonians. Dragonians are given more importance than soldiers. Dragonians hold a unique prestige that a normal soldier could only dream of. Every soldier in the Eastern military desires to become a Dragonian. It's a soldier's ultimate dream. It is said that when one transforms into a Dragonian, their talent for cultivation increases. Their cultivation makes a big jump. And their powers become very terrifying. However, becoming Dragonian comes with heavy responsibility. Each of you will become a frontline soldier. The Empire will rely on your strength to fight wars. Dragonian is not just a promotion or a power upgrade, it's a responsibility. You were chosen here because you all are worthy to carry the title and my dragon blood. If I deem anyone to be unworthy of being a Dragonian, then I won't hesitate twice to take back what I will be giving you now. Though Aditya has never tried it, he was sure that he can take back the powers of a Dragonian that came from his bloodline. Hearing Aditya's words, a few soldiers among the 10,000 showed a displeased look. They thought that becoming Dragonian would let them live a work-free life. Each month they would receive a big salary without having to do any work. But it seems they were wrong. While some soldiers showed a look of fear after learning that they will become frontline fighters. These soldiers lacked the courage and the gut to become a true Dragonian. Aditya noticed everything. Not just Aditya, Spencer, and Watson also noticed the changes in everyone's faces. You, and you four, leave. Aditya said in a cold tone. Hearing this, soldiers at whom Aditya had pointed looked at Aditya in disbelief, while some looked at Aditya in relief, as they didn't want to become Dragonians after hearing about their responsibilities. You on the right end of the 4th row, leave. The one standing in the middle of the 9th row, leave. Leave. Around 10 minutes later, the number of soldiers standing in the throne hall had decreased. Now there are around 9,500 soldiers remaining. Aditya stood up from his throne and looked at the soldiers. I don't need cowards as my Dragonian. I don't want lazy soldiers either. If I find any of you not taking this seriously, I will strip you of your powers and title. If I can give it to you, then I can also take it from you. Today the soldiers saw that their emperor can be cruel and cold towards them as well. Hearing his words, everyone nodded their heads in fear. Seeing the faces of all the soldiers, Aditya nodded his head with a satisfied smile. Being a Dragonian means that you must be prepared to sacrifice your life for this empire. You must be brave. You must be responsible. You must be hardworking. The Eastern Empire does not feed lazy people. As for the lazy soldiers who tried to become Dragonian, Aditya will ask Spencer to fire them and send away. Prepare yourselves. Don't resist. Just embrace it. Without wasting any more time, Aditya summoned his divine blood. Those who had been sent out of the throne hall earlier saw an intense bright golden light coming from the throne hall. A large amount of mana was released. At the same time, the auras of nearly 10,000 soldiers began to rapidly change. When the bright golden light dimmed down, in front of Aditya, there were around 9,500 Dragonians. Spencer had picked second-order soldiers to become Dragonians. Now most of them had become third-order cultivators. The ones that were still stuck in the second order were very close to breaking through the third order. With this, now I have more than 20,000 Dragonians. Normally I would like to have more Dragonians, but turning almost 10,000 soldiers into Dragonians does put a burden on my mental health. Not to mention the huge amount of mana that I had to exhaust. The biggest obstacle was my own blood. I had to take out 9,469 drops of blood. Taking out this much blood will definitely leave me weakened. Fortunately, I have Julia's special pill. Consuming the pill, within a day or two, I should be able to recover all of my lost blood. Also, not all soldiers are qualified to become Dragonians. I had asked Spencer to pick the exceptional ones to become Dragonians. Aditya believed that 20,000 Dragonians were more than enough. If he pushed his body any more than that, Aditya would collapse right before the war. This is something that he desperately needed to avoid. The pills that Julia made can be consumed once every week. Consuming several pills within the same week neither increases the recovery rate nor gives an extra boost. It does the opposite. If this pill is taken more than once a week, then it permanently harms the body. I still have my Dragon Warriors army. Not to mention the fact that each Dragonian will be given a full body armor set according to their cultivation rank. They would be given various kinds of pills which would allow them to quickly recover and fight for a long time. Fortunately, Julia and Paige had a stock of pills for emergency use. Everyone can now return back to your division and take orders from your captain. You all are free to cultivate in the Dragon Palace if you have free time before you're deployed. One more thing, before you're deployed, I suggest you write a letter to your loved ones or to your family. As this war will continue for a while. It might be a while before you guys can return home. Aditya didn't add the bitter fact that some of them may never return from the battlefield. He just hoped that the Dragonians understood what he was trying to say. A farewell letter. As the Dragonians left, the throne hall became empty again. Spencer was making a list of resources that they had and the things that they needed in this war. While Watson was back to his prime minister job again. Though this time, it's only temporary. After the war, he would return back to his original job of being a butler. Your Majesty, the Alliance members are here, Watson said to Aditya in a low tone. Aditya closed his eyes and sensed that some foreign people trying to enter the Dragon Palace. But they did not take the final step. These people were familiar to Aditya. There was the Echo Dominion Emperor, Adam, Duke Campbell, the Thera Kingdom's King and Commander, and lastly, the Stormal Dynasty's Empress. They had bought some powerful guards with them. Without Aditya's permission, no outsider can enter or exit the Dragon Palace. He just needed to think to let them enter. Aditya put his hand on Watson's shoulder. The next moment both of them teleported to the entrance of the Dragon Palace. Meanwhile, this is the Dragon Palace. Everyone couldn't stop staring at the Dragon Palace. The palace was no doubt the best architecture that was ever built. Seeing the Dragon Palace, for some reason my own palace feels like a beggar's house. The Echo Dominion Emperor, Daxton Ferguson, looked at the Dragon Palace in envy. He has long heard of the unrivaled beauty and majesty of the Dragon Palace. Seeing it with his own eyes made Daxton believe that no other palace can be compared to the Dragon Palace. I feel as if a god himself has built this Dragon Palace. Campbell murmured in a low tone. The guards who heard Campbell's words nodded their heads while staring at the Dragon Palace. They felt just being able to look at something like this, their eyes were blessed. The Thera Kingdom's King and the Commander and the Stormal Dynasty's Empress had similar reactions. Everyone was in a daze while staring at the Dragon Palace. Seeing Aditya suddenly teleporting in front of them, everyone was shocked. Campbell felt his heart nearly stopping. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Eastern Empire. Please come inside. Regardless of their social standing and powers, Aditya treated his allies with respect and with dignity. As everyone walked in, they saw more of the Dragon Palace. They were able to see the powerful beings who lived here. Such a powerful presence. Emperor Daxton felt a sweat rolling down his neck. If Aditya wanted to, he could end everyone's life here within a few minutes and no one would know anything about it. So many powerful presences. Aditya has been hiding true strength from the world all along, thought Campbell as he looked around. Campbell now felt more assured about this war. The Thera King and the Storm Isle Empress had similar expressions on their faces. As for the guards, they were trembling in fear. How they were supposed to protect their kings and empress from such powerful people. They felt like crying, but their eyes had no tears. From the outside, no one is able to feel anything within the Dragon Palace, but when coming inside, it was a different story. The mana density in this place is really high. If I also had something like this, then within a decade or two, I could build an army that is strong enough to defeat the Echo Nexus Empire and the Oracle Alliance alone. Later when I have time, I must ask Aditya to tell me the way to build something like this. Little did Daxton know how childish and ridiculous his thoughts were. Aditya can build only one Dragon Palace. And he was able to do it because of the system. Not to mention, the huge amount of resources that he had to gather to build this. Even if Daxton manages to gather all the materials that Aditya gathered, without a system, he can't build the Dragon Palace. And not even a god would be able to copy the Dragon Palace. Aditya led them to the meeting room which Watson had prepared. On their way to the meeting room, everyone got to see many things. The more time they spent here, the more they realized just how valuable the Dragon Palace was. This palace was a treasure itself. Please sit. Everyone sat around the round-shaped table. On top of the table, there was a giant map of the dying Isle continent. Several points on the map had been marked with red pencils. These marked points are the places where Aditya was expecting the Echo Nexus Empire to attack in the upcoming days. Aditya sat next to Echo Dominion Emperor, Daxton. He made Adam sit on his right. This symbolized the close relationship that Aditya had with the Echo Dominion Empire. Your Majesty, I will just stand behind you. Sigh. Duke Campbell, this isn't the time for worrying about such small matters. We can ignore these small things for now. Sit down. Hearing this, Campbell was surprised. This was the first time he was seeing this side of Daxton. Duke Campbell nodded and then hesitantly sat down. The Thera Kingdom's king and the commander both sat next to each other. The Storm Isle Dynasty's empress sat on Thera King's right. Let's begin the meeting. Aditya took the lead. He took out a small 1-meter-long thin metal stick. You all are the close allies of the Istran Empire. Even if you don't want to fight, I am afraid the Oracle Alliance will still target your kingdom. Your Majesty, I think you're misunderstanding. We're here because we want to fight together with the Istran Empire. The Empress of the Storm Isle Dynasty said. Others nodded their heads along. Seeing this, Aditya smiled and said nothing in response. In the end, they weren't helping Aditya because they were allies of the Istran Empire. They were willing to stand alongside the Istran Empire because of the benefits that they will receive once this war ends. This is especially true for the Echo Dominion Emperor. As for the Storm Isle Dynasty and the Thera Kingdom, both didn't have much choice. Your Majesty, we have another visitor. Aditya already knew who this visitor was. Aditya knows every person that enters and exits the Dragon Palace. Let him come. Aditya let that person and his colleague pass through the gate. As long as Aditya was inside the Dragon Palace, no being would be capable enough to harm him unless he willingly lets himself be harmed. Aditya wasn't worried about this new visitor coming to the Dragon Palace with malicious intent. Even if he dared, inside the Dragon Palace, no one would be able to save him. Aditya was in total control here. Other than Aditya, there were multiple Fifth-Order cultivators in the Dragon Palace. With Aditya's order, these Fifth-Order Dragon warriors will rip him and his guards to shreds. I don't think the Istran Empire has any other allies. Daxton thought that all the Alliance members were there. But it seems he was wrong. He and others patiently waited for the person to enter. They did not have to wait long, as a minute later, a young man entered the meeting room. An old man followed the young man. Seeing the young man, Daxton, Adam, and Campbell widened their eyes in shock. They weren't expecting him here. This was completely shocking to them. Meanwhile, others had no idea who this young man was. But they were able to guess that this young man was another ally of the Istran Empire. Since only allies of the Istran Empire would be allowed to come to this meeting room. Your Majesty, I have always wanted to meet you. And today I was able to fulfill my wish. It's really nice to meet you. The young man removed the hat and gave a small bow to Aditya. Following the young man, the old man behind the young man also bowed to Aditya. But unlike the young man, the old man's bow lasted an extra second longer. This symbolized the position of the old man and the young man. A king is not required to bow in front of another king. But by greeting Aditya with a small bow, the young man was acknowledging Aditya to be superior in power. And as the old man was his subordinate and was someone in a lower position of power, he bowed for an extra second long to show his respect to the Istran Emperor. There is no need to bow. Your arrival is a surprise for me and my Prime Minister. Watson, please prepare one more chair. Aditya had heard of the declaration that the Hephaestus Kingdom made a few hours ago. Aditya wasn't sure if the king of the Hephaestus Kingdom was going to come. Aditya had made his plans without considering any help from the Hephaestus Kingdom. As for the old man, he wasn't going to sit along with others. As his status was lower than others, letting him sit along with others would be considered disrespectful to others. Instead, he was going to stand behind the young man as his prime minister. The status of Duke Adam and Campbell was higher than the old man because both of them belonged form a powerful empire. And the fact that Adam is Aditya's father-in-law, puts Adam in the same position as the Thera Kingdom's king, Charles, and the Stormal dynasty's empress. The head of the table was obviously the person with the most influence and power. And that person was Aditya. Watson bought a chair and placed it next to the empress. "Thank you, Sir Watson." From the way he was addressing, it was clear to others that he knew the Eastern Empire very well. He had done his homework before coming here. This is King of the Hephaestus Kingdom, Aidan Scott. And this is the Prime Minister of the Hephaestus Kingdom, Fabian Snow. Aditya then introduced the Thera King Charles and his commander Run. And then the Stormal dynasty's empress, Sophia Davis. The empress of the Stormal dynasty was the quiet one. Ever since she came here, she has very rarely spoken. Not only that but also her face was hidden under a black veil. The dress that she wore covered all of her skin. Aditya was already used to her. Sophia was just like that only. She wasn't a speaker. She would only open her mouth when it is necessary. The way she presented herself in front of everyone was very elegant and gracious. "Alright, let's start the meeting." The head of the table spoke and everyone went quiet. The meeting was all about Aditya explaining his plans to everyone. Before the meeting, he had taken a few hours to make a few surprise plans for the enemy. Aditya pointed at the Hephaestus Kingdom on the map. Just like the Echo Dominion Empire that was surrounded by the Oracle Alliance members from its 3 sides, the same had happened to the Hephaestus Kingdom. The kingdom was surrounded by members of the Oracle Alliance from 3 sides. If they were ever attacked from all 3 sides, then the population would have to escape through the sea. Judging from the current situation, there is going to be at least 2 active front lines. One is going to be in the Hephaestus Kingdom and the other is going to be in the Echo Dominion Empire. So I am planning on sending my elite troops to your territory. It would take weeks if not an entire month for your troops to reach our territories. By then, the Oracle Alliance would be done with us. Daxton's expressed his worry to everyone. By elite troops, I meant my Dragonians. Everyone widened their eyes. They all have heard about the Dragonians. When the Eastern Empire invaded the Southern Fire Dragon Empire, the Dragonians played a huge role in taking down the empire. Or when the Eastern Empire invaded the 3 Western Empires, the Dragonians managed to take over the cities in no time, allowing the Eastern Empire to capture 3 empires within a single night. Daxton and Aidan didn't think that Aditya would send his Dragonians to their territory. This made them excited. With the Dragonians, they would be able to give a tough fight to the enemy. 1 Dragonian is equal to 1,000 regular soldiers. Having just 100 Dragonians on the battlefield could change the whole tide. However, the next second, the excitement from Daxton's face disappeared. "But how are you planning on sending them to our territories?" "At most, by tomorrow, the soldiers of the Oracle Alliance members will be deployed. I am going to use the teleportation array, of course," Aditya said as if there was nothing wrong with his words. "Your Majesty, do you realize that using teleportation arrays to send the Dragonians would be extremely costly? This is why an empire can't use the teleportation array to send its troops. Teleporting just 1,000 troops requires a lot of mana stones and which is really expensive. In everyone's opinion, by doing that, Aditya would be wasting a lot of money." Only Adam and Watson remained quiet. Unlike others, they did not question Aditya. They knew that Aditya would make such decisions without thinking thoroughly. "I have used this method to send over 1,000 of my Dragonians to the western region. Sending the Dragonians through the sea would take too much time. By the time they will arrive in the northwest region, both the Echo Dominion Empire and the Hephaestus Kingdom had already fallen or would be on the brink of defeat." Hearing this, both Daxton and Aidan went silent. "I want to end the Oracle Alliance before they bring their troops to the eastern region. I am going to bring the fight to them. As for the cost, I will worry about it." The current Eastern Empire didn't lack money. Especially after it had begun selling glass. It earned a lot of profits. The Eastern Empire had more money than it could spend. And the money that Aditya got from the Dragon Slayer Guild was still there. Not to mention the fact that the Eastern Empire had mana stone mines. Aditya had the luxury of sending his troops using the teleportation array. No other king or emperor in this continent had the same luxury. For the next 2 hours, Aditya explained how everything will go. At the end of the meeting, the alliance was sent out by Watson. Only Aditya was left sitting in the meeting room. As for Adam, he didn't immediately go back along with Daxton and Duke Campbell. Instead, he went to meet his baby daughter since he was here. Watson came back to find Aditya looking at the map while deeply thinking about something. "Your Majesty, what are you thinking about?" Watson asked. Aditya pointed at the western region on the map. His fingers were resting on the remaining 4 Western empires. "For some reason, I have a feeling that the 4 remaining emperors are going to attack while we are busy fighting at the front lines. But even if they were to attack, this time I will personally head to the battlefield and take care of everything." Aditya's eyes became cold. From time to time, he had made his intentions clear. As long as the other party did not provoke him, he won't act against them. But every idiot kept on making the same mistake. "Your Majesty, the cannons are ready. If you would like we can test them out right now." "Alright. I also want to see the power of those cannons." Meanwhile, the other allies returned to their territories and began to prepare for the war. Really, thank you very much to all. Far from the Eastern Empire's capital, on a remote island that happens to be the Eastern Empire's territory, Aditya, Watson, Percy, and 10 soldiers had come here. The main reason Aditya chose this island is because no one lives on this island. Around 6 or 7 years ago, a volcano erupted on his island. The volcano destroyed everything. Around 5,000 original inhabitants died while the other 4,000 original inhabitants of this island managed to escape. The volcanic eruption destroyed everything. No living being was spared. In the end, what remained was a barren land covered in volcanic ashes. There was no sign of living beings on this island. Aditya and Watson are on the sidelines while Percy, who was the 3-star blacksmith of the Eastern Empire, started working on setting up the solar cannon. The 10 soldiers that came with them helped Percy. Meanwhile, Aditya and Watson observed the solar cannon with deep interest. Unlike normal cannons, this cannon did not have wheels. The barrel of the cannon was twice big compared to normal cannons. Unlike normal cannons, this cannon did not have any gunpowder, ignition chamber, and cannonball. Instead, in place of the gunpowder and the ignition chamber, a yellowish glowing stone was placed. These stones were solar stones. Solar stones work just like lunar stone. In the darkness, the solar stones would glow like sun. Your Majesty, the solar cannon is ready. Aditya stepped towards the solar cannon. How do I use it? Aditya asked while staring at the solar cannons. It's really simple. Your Majesty just needs to place your hand at the back of the barrel. As long as even a tiny amount of mana is pushed inside, the cannon will activate. Unlike normal cannons, the solar cannon harvests energy from solar stones. To charge the cannon with enough solar energy, 30 seconds is required. Aditya put his hand on the barrel and then pushed a little bit of his mana on the barrel. A second later, a yellow ball of energy started forming at the muzzle of the cannon. At the same time, the whole barrel of the cannon started glowing. With each passing second, the glow brighter. The yellow energy ball also started getting bigger and much brighter. 30 seconds later, the solar cannon was fully charged. Your Majesty, please take your hand off the barrel to allow cannon to fire. Aditya did what Percy told him. Just as he took his hand off the barrel, a yellow beam of light was shot out from the solar cannon. Under Aditya, Watson, and the soldiers' shocked gaze, the beam of light hit the mountain that was located on the other side of the island. Boom! A huge explosion took place. The entire island was shaking. The shockwave generated by the explosion sent a large amount of dust and pebbles into the sky. Your Majesty, what do you think? Percy asked while staring at his creation. He was really proud of what he had created. This was his best creation. Amazing, Watson said while staring at the mountain, which now had been destroyed completely. In place of the mountain, a huge crater remained. The beam of light can travel up to 5 kilometers. If it's anywhere outside of 5 kilometers, then the beam of light loses its energy and power. If the enemy is within the 5 kilometers range and was hit with a beam of light, then it will land serious damage. The solar cannon is really easy to use. Unlike traditional cannons, this cannon is more effective and also not that costly. Unlike mana stones, solar stones were very cheap. Now that Percy had managed to build a weapon that runs by harvesting the solar energy within the solar stones, the Eastern wouldn't have to worry about the cost of the materials. Percy, how many solar cannons have you built so far? Aditya can tell that the power behind this shot was enough to seriously injure even a beginner 5th-order cultivator. Just a single shot of this cannon would be enough to wipe out thousands of soldiers. Your Majesty, unfortunately, up until recently, I was perfecting this solar cannon. Even now I can feel that the power of this cannon can be increased if I manage to reduce the charging time. I only have built one solar cannon. To build multiple of these solar cannons, would need funds and also manpower. Watson, give whatever Percy needs to make more of these solar cannons. Understood, Your Majesty. Now that I have seen the power of the solar cannon, it's time to head back. Aditya teleported everyone back to the Dragon Palace. Meanwhile, after Aditya left, the volcano that destroyed this island had activated once again. The shockwave from the explosion caused another eruption to occur. This time, the volcanic eruption was even stronger than the previous times. Scene change _________. Meanwhile, somewhere else. An old man wearing a dark cloak entered a tailoring shop. The man walked inside the shop. He then stopped in front of one female tailor. Noticing the old man, "Hello sir, how can I help you?" The woman asked with a professional smile. The old man silently placed a golden coin that had skeleton's face on it. Seeing the coin, the woman took the coin and put it in her pocket. "Please come with me, sir." The woman then led the old man to an ungrounded chamber. The underground chamber of the tailoring shop was dark and gloomy. The old man can see many assassins idly sitting. As the woman bought the old man, all the assassins looked at the old man. Feeling everyone's gaze on him, the old man shivered in fear. He began to sweat in nervousness. This was a place that he would never want to return to again. The woman brought the old man to the receptionist, who was a beautiful seductive succubus. "Target?" The succubus professionally asked without wasting any time, indicating that she has been doing this job for a long time now. "Eastern Emperor." The old man replied in a nervous tone. Hearing this, the succubus showed a surprised look. The Eastern Emperor's head is very costly. Not everyone can afford it. 100 million royal gold coins. The succubus shook her hand with a smile. Too little. Normally 100 million royal gold coins would be considered a huge amount of money. But the target was really strong and it would nearly impossible task to kill him. The old man gritted his teeth before adding more money. 500 million royal gold coins. The succubus licked her lips in excitement. The receptionist loved money more than anything. Hearing that the old man was willing to give 500 million royal gold coins had made her excited and horny. Please wait here for some time. Why? The old man asked in fear. He didn't want to stay in a place where he would be surrounded by assassins. I will have to meet my queen and get her approval on the mission before the bounty can be made official. The old man nodded his head. Seeing the old man look scared, the succubus felt pity for him. Don't worry, no one in this place would harm you. We don't harm our clients. Just order a drink or two and relax. If everything goes perfectly, then I will return within 30 minutes. Scene change ______. Using a hidden teleportation array, the receptionist went to see her queen. Knock. Knock. What is it? The succubus heard a cold voice. My queen, we have a 500 million royal gold coin bounty on the Istran Emperor's head. Should we accept the mission? The succubus asked as the last time someone put a bounty on Aditya, her queen had rejected accepting the mission. No. Send our client back. We don't accept missions on the Istran Emperor. The queen replied in a stern tone. For some reason, she sounded really displeased. All right. The succubus sighed, feeling depressed. She didn't understand why her queen rejected such a big amount. A few minutes later, the succubus returned. My apologizes, but we can't accept this mission. The succubus said in an apologetic tone. Hearing this, the old man was surprised. As he was about to leave, an assassin who had heard what the receptionist said followed him. As the man exited the tailoring shop, the assassin put his hand on the old man's shoulder. Who is it? The old man was frightened. Do you want the Istran Emperor dead? The assassin asked. The old man nodded his head. I will do the job for 100 million royal gold coins. But keep this a secret between us. Follow me. This place has too many ears and hidden eyes. Eyes. The old man followed the assassin. Soon both of them left the city and went somewhere else. Really, thank you very much. The inevitable was already upon them, whether the people were ready or not. The black clouds of the war were hovering above the land. Even before the bloodshed began, everyone could feel the casualties of this war. In the darkness of the night, more than 500,000 troops were sent from the Istran Empire. Without worrying about the huge cost that the empire would need to bear for deploying so many troops to a different region of the continent, under Aditya's orders, more than 500,000 troops were sent to the Echo Dominion Empire and to the Hephaestus Kingdom. I am leaving everything in your hands. Don't let me down. Do not worry, your majesty. Your humble servant won't allow any enemy to enter the Istran territory. I will focus on decreasing the enemy troops' numbers. If anything serious happens, then send me a message. I will return immediately. Understood. It has been a few minutes since 500,000 troops were deployed. Now Aditya and some of his generals were preparing to leave for the northwestern region as well. Well, it's time. Aditya put his crown on the throne before walking down the stairs. At the end of the stairs, Alicia, Julia, Ria, and Lara were waiting for Aditya. All four of them looked very reluctant to let Aditya go to war. Especially, Lara looked very reluctant. Julia, Alicia, and Ria had seen Aditya going to war and they were used to it. Seeing Aditya stopping in front of 4 wives, others quietly left the throne hall. Now only 5 people were present at the throne hall. The king and his wives. I have given Julia a few tubes of my blood. For the next 4 or 8 days, I might not be able to return. Previously Lara never felt the shockwaves of war as she mostly stayed in her room and very rarely went out. Whenever she did go out, no one would tell her about the war or anything related to it. But here, she had read how unforgiving a war can be. Aditya smiled seeing Lara like this. She is trying her best to appear strong. He then suddenly pulled her and gave her a soft kiss on her lips. Their kiss only lasted for 3 seconds, but it was enough to calm her down and make her smile. This guy has become an expert in coaxing girls. I also want to come with you. Like this said before, just stay home and wait for me. Be a good wife and trust your husband. Okay. Ria obediently nodded her head while hugging Aditya. Seeing this, Julia and Alicia felt speechless. If you listen to me, then after all of this, I will take you out somewhere. Ria's eyes lit up in excitement after hearing this. Kiss me. Ria closed her eyes and demanded a kiss. What a needy girl. Aditya smiled before lowering his head to face to kiss Ria. Both of them kissed for about 5 seconds before Aditya stopped. Not enough. I want more. Ria won't be seeing Aditya for a while, so she wanted more than just one kiss. All of this aroused him. After a moment, both of them finally separated. Seeing her moist her eyes and wet lips, Aditya couldn't control himself. If you make me wait for too long, then you will miss your opportunity. I will try to finish as soon as possible and return home. Meanwhile, poor Lara looked confused by this. She didn't understand what both of them were talking about. He then turned his attention to Alicia. What? I don't need your kiss. If you're done, then you can leave. Really? He asked with a teasing smirk. Yes. I don't need your kiss. Take care of yourself out there. Even though Aditya has been kissing them in front of each other, Alicia was still shy. Unlike Rhea, Lara, and Julia, Alicia was too prideful to openly express her love for Aditya. Ignoring the words of the goddess, the dragon monarch pulled her towards him. The next second, the goddess found herself hugged by Aditya. Julia, Rhea, and Lara looked at each other and smiled. Don't work too much. Be sure to take proper rest and also spend at least a few hours every day cultivating. Whenever Aditya wasn't around, Alicia had a bad habit of working for a long time without taking proper rest. Aditya knew that Alicia had very high cultivating talent. Stop acting like my mother. The future mother of my child must be strong and healthy. Screw you. I am not bearing your child. Aditya can somewhat understand why Alicia sounded angry. Don't worry, my little mermaid. As soon as these words were spoken, her entire face turned red. Now it's your time. Julia is growing up just like her mother. Aditya and Julia hugged each other for a long time. After hugging each other for a long time, Julia looked into his eyes. You look weak. Did something happen? As expected, I can't hide anything from you. Aditya dryly laughed and replied. Hearing this, Julia did not smile. She narrowed her eyes and coldly looked at Aditya. What happened? Julia knows that her husband is capable enough to annihilate an entire army in his peak condition. But she felt uneasy knowing that her husband was heading to the battlefield while not at his peak. Nothing much. When I gave my blood to turn 10,000 soldiers into Dragonians, I kind of pushed myself. It will take 2 or 3 days before I can recover all that blood. But don't worry, this wouldn't affect my fighting ability. Aditya hoped that his women wouldn't make a big deal out of this. This is why he didn't tell them about this. Sigh. I suggest you stay away from the front line for the first few days. But knowing your character, I am sure you won't listen to my words. Hearing this, Aditya smiled while holding her hands. Be careful out there. After Aditya left, the 4 girls were left in the throne hall. You are letting him go even though you know that he is not at his peak. Why? Sigh. Julia sighed while looking at Aditya's throne. Aditya is a stubborn man. Even if all told him to stay, he still would go and fight. Julia then looked at her sisters with a smile and replied. As his wives, we should support our husbands in his decisions. In the capital of the Echo Dominion Empire. The capital of Echo Dominion Empire was bustling with multicolor lights and noises. The capital is home to more than 3.4 million people. The capital was said to be one of those cities in the Echo Dominion Empire that never sleeps. Even during the night, people still can be seen walking, drinking, partying, and working, all over the city. However, unlike the usual times, when there is a peaceful atmosphere around the capital, currently, the atmosphere in the whole city is tense and tension was in the air. The marching sounds of the soldiers can be heard all over the city. Tonight, the streets of Goldleaf City have been taken over by millions of troops. Most of the shops were shut down. Most common class people stayed home tonight. Some people were scared of war. Some people were excited to see the entire empire in action. As it has been a long time since the Echo Dominion Empire had been at war. March. The citizens of Goldleaf City watched as the millions of troops left the capital. Watching millions of troops marching out of the city, a family of 2 was watching everything from their balcony. Mom, where are they going? These brave men are going to fight bad guys and protect our home. Mom, are they heroes? Yes, they are heroes. Outside Goldleaf City. The Emperor of the Echo Dominion Empire stood on the walls of the city and watched his troops gather outside the city. Your Majesty, the Eastern Empire has sent 500,000 troops to the 3 front lines. Among the 500,000 troops, 10,000 of them are powerful Dragonians and Dragon Warriors. While His Majesty has sent around 250,000 troops to the Hephaestus Kingdom. Hearing this, Daxton showed a look of surprise before nodding his head in acknowledgement. Aditya told them that he was going to send around 500,000 troops, but he had sent more troops than he had promised. Also, His Majesty has sent a message that he will be personally joining the front lines. If additional reinforcement is required, then the Eastern Empire will send more troops. I see. Daxton wasn't expecting Aditya to join the battle. Even during the meeting, Aditya never told them that he would join the front line so early. In a war, usually, the first few battles are fought to test each other's powers, but from the looks of it, Aditya was planning on going all out on the enemies from the beginning. If he is going to join the front lines, then how can I as the Emperor of the Echo Dominion Empire stay behind and rest at my castle while he and millions of other troops will be fighting at the front line? Your Majesty, you don't mean. Yes, I am also going to the front lines. Hearing this, the Prime Minister deeply sighed, feeling another headache. Your Majesty, should we bring the 2 elders with us? There is no need. Both of them need to stay behind and protect the capital. Your Majesty, I suggest, you bring at least one of the elders with you. Daxton looked annoyed at his Prime Minister. Sigh. The Prime Minister nodded his head in defeat. All right. Scene change ___. The Echo Dominion Empire had to defend itself from 3 sides. This is an unfortunate situation for the Echo Dominion Empire. The Oracle Alliance sees the Echo Dominion Empire as the Eastern Empire's biggest ally. On the eastern border, the Echo Dominion Empire shared borders with the Mystic Spring Empire. They would be here in an hour. Let them come. This time, not even a single one would be going back alive. Behind Adam, there was an army of 600,000 standing and waiting to welcome the enemy. Need some assistance? As the light dimmed down, everyone was able to see Aditya. Your Majesty, what are you doing here? This is going to be a long night for me. The other 2 front lines still have a few more hours before the enemy comes. If you want, I can go ahead and annihilate the enemy even before they can cross the border. Hearing this, Adam shook his head with a smile. Your Majesty, I suggest you preserve your strength. The next moment Adam sensed something. He raised his right hand and ordered in a loud tone. On my orders, load the magic cannons. Archers, get ready to fire arrows. The eastern border between the Echo Dominion Empire and the Mystic Spring Empire is a mountainous region. Tall trees covered the mountains. This whole region is home to many magic animal species. The magic animals that lived in this region were mostly first or second order magic animals. Most of the magic animals that lived in this region were herbivorous magic animals. Feeling the presence of 600,000 plus soldiers, these magic animals kept themselves far away and hidden. A path between the mountains and the dense forest connected the Echo Dominion Empire and the Mystic Spring Empire. Both the Echo Dominion Empire and the Mystic Spring Empire also had closed their borders and didn't allow anyone to travel using this path. The army of 600,000 silently waited for the Mystic Spring Empire's troops to arrive. General Eddie, you're here as well. Eddie is someone who would rather betray Adam. His loyalty lies with the honored family and with Adam. Your Majesty, I didn't expect you to remember me. From Adam, Eddie had learned of Aditya's real identity. Of course, I remember you. I still remember the spar that we had that day. Your Majesty, it's nice to have you here with us. I don't care what kind of monsters we are going to face. Even if the enemy sends millions of troops, we would still win because of him. Father, where is Old Man Tobias? If Eddie is considered Adam's right-hand man, then Old Man Tobias is Adam's left hand. Someone needs to stay back at the Abigail City. After silently waiting for a few minutes, Aditya, Adam, Eddie, and a few other sensory cultivators sensed some beings with cold and dark aura heading in their direction from the east. After a few minutes of waiting, everyone saw some skeleton figures flying in their direction. It seems the enemy has brought necromancer with them. Necromancers have the ability to raise the dead and turn them into undead. There are at least 10,000 undeads heading in our direction. Father, let me deal with them. Under everyone's gazes, Aditya stood in front of the undead's path. At the same time, crimson lightning started coming out of his body. The crimson lightning danced around his body like snakes. They are coming. The undeads approached Aditya. Just as the undeads came within Aditya's 50 meters radius, he snapped his fingers. Snap. The next second, fierce crimson lightning cracking sounds were heard. Crimson lightning snakes came out of Aditya's body and started attacking the undeads. Boom. Boom. Each time the crimson lightning snakes touched the body of an undead, the bodies of the undeads instantly exploded like balloons. While the crimson lightning snakes were destroying the undeads at a rapid speed, Aditya sensed a powerful presence within the enemy. The aura that he sensed was a powerful peak 5th order cultivator. I guess, I should also get serious now. Ding! The passive boost of the Storm Marshal class has been activated. Storm Flight. Lightning Armor. Crimson Lightning Dash. Ding! You have activated Storm Flight. Due to the storm, the agility boost from the Storm Flight has been doubled. Ding! You have activated the Lightning Armor. Ding! You have activated Crimson Lightning Dash. Aditya decided to hold himself from using Inferno Overdrive and Dragon Transformation. He felt that activating those two kills at the same time would be an overkill. Now that he had reached peak 3rd order, even without needing to activate those two skills, he can deal with any peak 5th order cultivator. Unless the enemy has the stats of a mid, 6th order powerhouse, Aditya has nothing to worry about. And in this continent, it is impossible for even a 6th order cultivator to retain his original powers because of the law of heaven. Adam, Eddie, and others sensed the aura around Aditya getting strong with each passing second. Seeing this, Aditya was sure that Aditya must have sensed a strong presence in the enemy troops. Everyone, today we all have come here to protect our children, our family, our wives, our parents, our birth town, and our homeland. It is an unfortunate fact that we can secure peace only by fighting this war. Under the starry sky, we will face our enemies without any fear. By making death our ally, we will become immortals on this battlefield. Now raise your swords, spears, and bows, and follow me to the battlefield. Adam's speech seems to have affected every soldier standing behind him. Their blood boiled hearing his passionate words. And seeing Aditya destroy the undeads like nothing seems to have given the soldiers the courage that they needed. Fight for our family. Fight for our children. Fight to defend our homeland. All the soldiers roared along with Adam and Eddie and followed Adam toward the enemy. On the other side, the Mystic Spring Empire's troops also raised their swords high and increased their marching pace. Soon the troops of both sides clash. Meanwhile, 15 away from the New Moon Woodlands, Daxton had come using the teleportation array. Your Majesty, it looks like we are already late. Let's hurry up. We can't miss this battle. Daxton dragged his prime minister like an excited child. After dealing with the undeads, Aditya did not join the army. He instead stood in the air and watched as both sides were about to clash. Meanwhile, the enemy commander, who was a beastman, swung his axe at Adam with a roar. The enemy commander was 2.5 meters tall. His body was muscularly built. He had tan skin and a scary face. In front of him, Adam looked like a teenage boy, even though Adam is tall and muscular. He had a violent aura around him. The enemy commander's appearance was scary. There were numerous long and small scars all over his body. He wore a silver chest plate. He did not bother to wear any protective gear on his arms and shoulders. If Aditya had to describe the enemy commander, then he would say, badass violent beast. Being a beastman, the enemy commander was taller than humans. His muscles were filled with raw power and strength. Those long scars of his reflected the countless life and death battles he had over the years. Clang! Adam blocked the enemy commander's attack with his greatsword, which weighed tons, yet Adam had no problem using the greatsword. As both weapons clashed, they created sparks of flames. It's nice to see you again, Mr. Adam. The beastman grinned while looking at Adam. Lawson, I see you're in good health. Adam kicked Lawson. But the beast man was able to block Adam's kick with ease. Mr. Adam, you have gotten weaker in the last few years. I heard you have become a family man. Is it true? Adam's face darkened hearing Lawson mention his family. He did not reply as he knew that Lawson was just taunting him. Seeing Adam remaining calm, Lawson was disappointed and very unhappy. Lawson took a step back before diagonally swinging his axe at Adam again. Adam blocked the attack but felt the impact of the enemy's attack on both of his arms. The impact of the attack nearly forced Adam to take a step back. Clang! Mr. Adam, you have changed. Where is the lion wild of Echo Dominion? Lawson asked while swinging his axe at Adam again. This time, he put more strength into his attack. As Adam blocked the attack, the impact of the attack traveled through the great sword and reached his arms. Adam felt his arms becoming numb from too much pain. This time, Adam couldn't control and hold his ground anymore. He had to take a step back. This surprised Adam as he and Lawson had similar cultivation ranks and similar strength the last time they fought. Seeing Adam's shocked face, Lawson felt angry. He spat on the ground and looked at Adam in deep hatred. Pathetic. I guess the wild lion has died. Becoming a family man has weakened your resolve. Lawson and Adam had fought many times back in their young days. Lawson was sent by the Mystic Spring Empire while Adam represented the Echo Dominion Empire. Back then, whenever both of them fought, Adam, who was in his prime days, always managed to defeat Lawson even though he had more men and resources than Adam. On this same border, he and Adam had fought many times. Each time they fought, Lawson was severely injured by Adam to the point where he would need to stay in bed for months. Even with the advanced healing pills, Lawson would need to stay in bed for months. Back then, Lawson was the only one who could take on the wild lion. But each time they fought, he always narrowly escaped with his life. Over time, Lawson began to see Adam as his number of enemy and rival. A deep respect grew in his heart for Adam. As a beast man, Lawson respected the ones with power. Adam had earned his respect by defeating him even though the odds were against him. In their last battle, Adam did not kill Lawson. Instead, he spared his life. Adam even took the unconscious Lawson to the border of Mystic Spring Empire. If Adam hadn't done that, then Lawson would have died either from bleeding or he would have been eaten by some wild magic animals. However, this is exactly what Lawson hated. As a beast man, Lawson lived his entire life as a warrior. Lawson never saw the need of having family and friends. His life was full of training and training. As a warrior, Lawson believed that getting killed Adam, who is his enemy and his biggest rival, would be the greatest way of moving on to the next life, but he didn't expect the wild lion to show mercy. Lawson hated it whenever people pitted him. He felt he was being looked down upon. After years, nearly 2 decades later, Lawson had come here fully prepared to face Adam one last time. Lawson was greatly disappointed by his biggest rival. But this wasn't the Adam that Lawson wanted to face. This Adam had lost his sharpness. This Adam had become an old blade full of rust. This Adam was dull and lacked the fighting spirit that the Adam from 2 decades back had. This pissed Lawson. He continuously pushed himself for 2 decades just for this moment. Yet his rival had left his past and had become a family man. This angered Lawson very much. You're not the Adam that I know. Bring him out. I want to face that furious lion. With a crazy grin, Lawson looked like a madman. He kicked Adam in the chest. Adam was able to block the attack by placing his great sword in front of his chest. But the impact of Lawson's kick sent Adam flying. Eagles Nova 1, oh bang. Adam crushed landed on the ground and groaned in pain. From the impact, the ground beneath him had cracked like a spider web and a small crater had formed. Without even realizing it, a few drops of blood came out of Adam's mouth and fell to the ground. Adam felt all of his ribs nearly been broken from the attack. He has gotten stronger. Even though both of their cultivation were in the same rank, while Lawson regularly trained his body, Adam had neglected his body from any kind of training. Physical training is important for all cultivators. Also, being a beast man, Lawson had an advantage over his strength. Compared to an average human with no cultivation, an average beast man with no cultivation was stronger. Beastmen were basically half animals and half humans. This is what made Lawson's attacks so deadly and powerful. Adam raised his head and looked at Lawson, who was 110 meters away from him. Carrying the large black axe on his right shoulder, Lawson was slowly walking in Adam's direction. A few soldiers saw the enemy commander walking without any guards. The soldiers tried to take out the enemy commander, which would instantly end this battle in their victory. But before the soldiers could even attack Lawson, arrows from the sky started raining down on them. Looking back, behind Lawson, 50 archers, riding magic horses, were protecting Lawson from any kind of sneak attack. Whenever any enemy soldier got close to Lawson, these archers would shoot arrows and take down the soldiers. Lord Adam, are you alright? A few soldiers stopped fighting and came to help Adam stand up. Using their bodies as support, Adam stood up while keeping his eyes on Lawson. I am alright. You guys focus on taking down the other soldiers. I will handle this guy. The soldiers hesitantly looked at each other. They have seen that Adam cannot match Lawson in strength. They were not sure if Adam can win against the enemy commander. If something happened to Adam, who is the commander, then the enemy will win this battle. The same could be said for the Mystic Spring Empire's commander. Let Lord Adam fight this guy. I will stay with Lord Adam if in case he needs any assistance. The soldiers looked back and saw the second commander, Eddie, who was Adam's right-hand man. Seeing Eddie, the soldiers felt relieved. All right. Meanwhile, Adam ignored the conversation between Eddie and the soldiers. He knew in his heart that other than Aditya no one here can kill Lawson. Adam wasn't confident in defeating Lawson. In the past, he has defeated Lawson countless times. But now times have changed and Lawson has grown a lot stronger. We won't know if I can without trying. Adam wasn't afraid of facing someone stronger than him. This was not the first time he was going to do something like this. But it was just as Lawson said before. Adam had gone soft. The rage and the violence that he used to have back in his prime had long been erased from his character. Adam was now a different man. And he didn't regret his choice. Life gave him a chance to enjoy life with his family and Adam took that chance. This reminds me of a quote that my old man used to say. The older you get, the more quiet you become. Life humbles you so deeply as you age. You realize how much nonsense you've wasted time on. You start to accept things for what they really are. You stop forcing friendships and connections with people and you just learn to grow. Although cultivators can live for millions of years. But not even immortals can escape time and its influence. Adam thought while staring at Lawson. Remembering these words, Adam fueled his determination to defeat Lawson. His time still hasn't ended yet. There are so many things that Adam wanted to do in life. His days as a wild lion might be over, but his life as a father. As a duke. As a husband. As a family man. And as a head is still far from being over. After all, life is all about changes. Really, thank you very much to all those who... Clang. Clang. I will never be defeated by this you. Saying that, Lawson threw a giant heavy axe at Adam. Just like Adam's great sword, the giant black axe weighed tons and Lawson had no problem using this heavy weapon on a battlefield. Adam knew that even if he stopped the attack with his great sword, he would be injured from the impact, so he moved to the right and chose to dodge the attack. The Adam of the past isn't the type to back down from a fight. Saying that, Lawson pulled his black axe towards him. There was a thin, almost invisible chain attached to the handle of the axe. The other end of the chain was wrapped around Lawson's left arm. Grabbing the chain, he pulled his axe back. Time changes people. I have changed as well. I would have been happy if you also had changed yourself. But look at you. You still look the same. Your personality is still the same. You haven't changed a bit. Lawson started rotating the giant axe using the chain that is attached at the end of the handle. While rotating the giant axe, he coldly looked at Adam and replied. I don't need to change. If my change is going to make me weak like it did to you, then I would rather stay the same my whole life. Lawson always has lived the life of a warrior. It's not that he didn't want to change. It's just that, a warrior who has lived his whole life with the purpose of getting stronger and dominating his opponents has never known or has thought of life beyond fighting and training. Lawson thinks that if he changes his lifestyle, then he will become weak just like Adam. Lawson doesn't know the happiness that Adam has found after changing his life. The happiness and the peace that he discovered. Lawson views Adam's current life as worthless. He thinks that giving in pleasure and enjoyment makes a man weak. Lawson released the axe toward Adam. The giant black axe flew toward Adam at a very fast pace. Adam was somewhat able to dodge the axe in time, but the two soldiers who were fighting behind him weren't so lucky. The black axe hit their bodies. Egglesnell bang. The next second both of their bodies were crushed. They turned into human meatballs. Their heads exploded like water balloons and their bodies turned into meat paste. The ones who saw this trembled in fear. Even the soldiers on Lawson's side stepped away from him, fearing that his axe might fly at them next. Seeing that he had missed, Lawson was pissed. He pulled his axe back. As the axe returned to Lawson's hand, he found a shadow above his head. Just as he looked up, he saw Adam's greatsword descending towards him with the intention of cutting him in half. That's not enough, Mr. Adam. I can't feel your intent to kill me. The previous you would have been overflowing with killing intent. Saying that, Lawson put his left arm above his head. The chains that were wrapped around his left arm blocked the attack. Lawson felt his left arm becoming numb from the impact. He was sure that some areas of his arm had cracked from the impact. But he did not show any pained expression on his face. This kind of pain is nothing. As Lawson calmly blocked the attack, from his right side, a shadow appeared in his vision. Before he could react or do anything, the shadow punched the right side of his face and sent him flying. Before Lawson could land on the ground, Adam grabbed the chain that was attached to his axe and pulled Lawson towards him. Lawson felt his body being pulled before he could react. Adam kicked him in the gut and sent him flying with greater force. Bang! If not for the axe connecting to Lawson through the chain, he would have been sent flying to the other side of the battlefield. Lawson crushed and landed 10 meters away on the ground. He coughed out a mouthful of blood. As Lawson stood up, his eyes searched for Adam but couldn't find Adam anywhere. Looking for me. Hearing this, Lawson's entire body froze in fear as Adam's cold voice reached his left ear. Before Lawson could react, Adam vertically swung his greatsword to kill Lawson. Just as the greatsword was about to cut Lawson in half and end his life, a skeleton body appeared in front of Lawson and took the hit in Lawson's place. Bang! Seeing this, Adam wasn't pleased. Who is it? Adam asked while moving back. Sir Adam, my apologies for interfering in your battle. Please understand that I can have you end our commander's life. Adam turned to his right to find a woman whose entire body was covered under a black cloak and a black hood. Because of the hood, Adam couldn't see her full face. There are hundreds of undeads and zombies around the woman. Her aura was dark and sinister. She held a skeleton staff in her right hand. Adam can tell that his woman had white pale skin, but he couldn't tell if this woman was human or if she belonged to some other race. Meanwhile, Lawson had recovered and was ready for round 2 with Adam. Adam, it's time for round 2. Adam faced Lawson while keeping his eyes on the necromancer at man. Meanwhile, the female necromancer slowly began to retreat from Adam and focus on killing the enemy soldiers using her undeads and using some dark spells. Lawson charged at Adam. Beast technique number 8, flame. The next second, both of Lawson's fists were covered in flames. Take this. Adam crossed his arms on his chest and took his right fist, which was covered in flame. Bang! The honored family's head was pushed back while the skin on his arms was slightly burned. Damn, that hurts. It feels as if I have returned back in time. Beast technique number 7, flawless titan. An illusionary image of a black titan figure appeared behind Lawson's body. Flawless titan. Good job, Ruby. Amidst all the chaos on the battlefield, Ruby and the man beside her were comfortable enough to stand and have small conversation. Whenever the number of the undeads would start decreasing, Ruby and other fellow necromancers would just turn the dead soldiers who were lying around the battlefield into undead. Just like Ruby, every other necromancer on this battlefield were wearing a black cloak that covered their entire bodies and covered their faces under a hood. Chavi, are you done with your task? Unfortunately, no, I am not done. Eddie is proving to be much more powerful than I had initially thought. Ruby glanced in Eddie's direction only to find him easily destroying Chavi's undead. Necromancers in particular did not like social interactions. Sigh. Please help me out this time. You know I have helped you twice in this month. Sigh. What do you want? Last me you promised to give me 100 mana stones. What? That's too much. Unlike Aditya who had a system to upgrade his skills rank each time he reached a new order, the cult, then forget it. I am sure you will find some way to defeat Eddie. Chavi gritted his teeth for a moment before stopping Ruby. Done. Ruby was excited to learn this skill. Let's end this quickly. Really thank you very much to all those who sent. Last me you promised to give me 100 mana stones. This time, I want you to give me one of your strongest dark spells. What? That's too much. Then forget it. I am sure you will find some way to defeat Eddie. I am going over there. Ruby pretended to walk away. Chavi gritted his teeth for a moment before stopping Ruby. Wait. I agree. I will give you my 4th order Dark Mist skill book if you agree to help me. Done. Chavi couldn't help but feel depressed seeing Ruby's excited face. He felt as if he had been cheated. Chavi couldn't help but curse his luck. Why he was given the mission of killing Adam's right hand. He knew that if he disobeyed the commander, he will be killed. It didn't matter who was right and who was wrong. The higher-ups wouldn't care even if 100 or even 1,000 like Chavi were killed. Chavi believed that Ruby should have been given this mission instead. Let's end this quickly. I want to go back and create more undeads. Chavi felt anger seeing Ruby's uncaring attitude. Ruby waved the bone staff in her hand to cast a spell that every necromancer knows. Undead summoning. A black magic circle formed under Ruby. The round magic circle was glowing. The magic circle was 5 meters big. In the next second, 20 skeleton bodies started emerging from the magic circle. Each undead skeleton wore a first-order armor set and had a first-order weapon. Their eyes were glowing red. The size of the undeads varied from 2 meters to 1.5 meters. The majority of the undeads were males. Only a few of them were females. Compared to the normal undeads that Ruby had previously summoned to fight the enemy soldiers, these undeads were very powerful. Even the least strong undead had the power of a beginner 3rd order cultivator. While the strongest undead had the power of peak 3rd order. Facing this many strong undeads, even someone like Eddie would find it troublesome. It wouldn't be easy for Eddie Wood to take out this many undeads at the same time. All the complaints, anger, and dissatisfaction that Chavi had towards Ruby disappeared seeing 20 powerful undeads. Chavi already summoned around a few hundred undeads and ordered those undeads to attack Eddie and keep him busy. With Ruby's help, he would be able to kill Eddie and complete his mission. What the hell? Why are all the undeads are attacking me? While dodging the attacks of the undeads, Eddie glanced in Adam's direction from the corner of his eyes. Eddie has been planning on helping Adam if in case Adam was attacked by multiple opponents or if Lawson was about to land the killing blow. As Adam and Lawson's battle started, Eddie found himself surrounded by a few hundred undeads. It was easy to deal with these few hundred undeads. What made things complicated was the dark spells that some of the undead mages used while keeping themselves hidden. Eagles Nova 1-0 Each dark spell served as a source of distraction for Eddie. Sometimes, the undead mage would cast a dark spell that would cause him to feel confused. Sometimes, the dark mages would use dark spells that temporarily curse him. Curse of Sand. The Thunder Curse. The Undead Curse. Although none of the undead mage spells truly harmed him, these spells were like mosquitoes that were constantly biting him and leaving him distracted. I had enough of this. Frustrated, the right-hand man of Honored House, Eddie punched the ground after gathering his mana in his right fist. Bang! The punch sent a shockwave around Eddie. Some undeads who were very near Eddie instantly fell as the ground beneath them cracked while other undeads felt the shockwave and struggled to keep their balance. Finding the opportunity, Eddie took out several triangular-shaped metal objects from his pocket. What are those? Asked Chavi in confusion. Ruby also looked confused. Meanwhile, Eddie threw the triangular-shaped metal objects around him with a grin on his face. He was truly fed up. These undeads had annoyed him so much that he decided to use these triangular metal objects. As soon as the triangular metal objects fell to the ground, they started shining brightly. The next second, all the triangular metal objects blew up. Boom! Boom! The sudden explosion left Ruby, Chavi, and the undead surrounding Eddie unprepared. The explosions were powerful enough to destroy all the few hundred undeads, but it was not strong enough to harm any fourth-order or third-order cultivators. Seeing the explosion around Eddie, he sighed in relief. He could have used his power to deal with the undeads, but he was just too fed up. Especially those undead mages had pissed him off. It seems the explosion metals that old man Tobias made works perfectly. Sadly, the cost of making these and the power of explosion metals are not worth it. What Eddie just used was meant to be used as experimental products. As the black smoke around Eddie disappeared, he sensed around 40 powerful undeads surrounding him again. I guess the enemy wants me dead regardless of the cost. Eddie thought, sensing Chavi and Ruby's presence beyond the army of undeads. Although Eddie is a fourth-order cultivator, surrounded by this many third-order undeads, he was at a disadvantage. If the fight was a front battle, then he wouldn't have been worried. But the presence of those undead mages among the undead army made it difficult for Eddie. Previously, even the first-order undead mages constantly created trouble for Eddie and constantly annoyed him with their low-level dark spells. Now that there were third-order undead mages, they would be able to cast powerful dark spells that can injure Eddie or distract him long enough for other undeads to land the killing blow. However, a fourth-order cultivator is a fourth-order cultivator. There is no way that I am going to lose to a bunch of third-order undeads. Eddie closed his eyes and decided to use a special fourth-order spell that he had learned after the goblin invasion. Misdirect. Attack. Under Chavi and Ruby's command, all the undead mages that they had summoned released various kinds of spells at Eddie at the same time. Seeing Eddie not dodging, Chavi and Ruby smiled, thinking that Eddie's death was confirmed. Chavi was very happy seeing this. He had a big smile on his face. But just as the attacks from the undead mages were about to hit Eddie, as if there was an invisible rubber wall built around Eddie, the attacks changed their paths and hit the undeads that had surrounded Eddie. Boom! Seeing this, the smiles on both Ruby and Chavi's faces disappeared as they stared at Eddie in deep shock. Misdirect, a special type of skill that can reflect any kind of attack from third-order or lower-order cultivators for 5 seconds. This skill was one of Eddie's trump cards. Now who is smiling? Eddie asked while a wave of flame started forming under him. Meanwhile, Beast Technique number 7, Flawless Titan. An illusionary image of a black Titan figure appeared behind Lawson's body. The Titan was 15 meters giant tall. Its entire body was black. It had sharp teeth and wolf claws. Its red eyes were glowing. Flawless Titan. That's new. He never used this when we fought back then. Adam became cautious seeing Lawson's entire body glowing. At the same time, he felt his aura rapidly growing stronger. A few seconds later, the illusionary image of a black Titan figure disappeared, but Lawson's aura remained the same. Adam, this is the end. I am going to kill you. At this moment, Adam felt as if Lawson had become a truly wild animal. He had become someone who had discarded his rationality and embraced his wild nature. Facing current Lawson, Adam looked very cautious and did not blindly charge at Lawson. Although he can tell that Lawson had become much more powerful after using that skill, he wasn't sure how much strong Lawson had become at this moment. Seeing this, Lawson mockingly looked at Adam. Adam, you have truly lost it. You have lost yourself. The Adam of the past would be ashamed of you. But Adam did not react to his taunting words. Since you care so much about your family, maybe after killing you, I will kill you, dear wife. Your previous children. And destroy all the people that you love. As if these words were the last push Adam needed. Hearing Lawson's words, Duke Adam's body began to tremble. His body wasn't shaking because of fear. Rather, his body was shaking from pure anger. Lawson's words had managed to touch Adam's sensitive nerve. No one, not even the Emperor of the Echo Dominion Empire or the Emperor of other empires, has ever dared to threaten Adam using his family. Everyone that this was his bottom line. He wouldn't endure it when it came to his wife and his children. His words had successfully angered the calm lion. The sleeping lion had finally woken up. Boom! Eddie, who had just finished dealing with the undeads and now was taking his sweet time hunting 2 necromancers, suddenly felt dense killing intent. The killing intent was so violent and suffocating that Eddie found it hard to breathe even though he was a fourth-order cultivator. It was not just Eddie who was experiencing this killing intent. The soldiers of both sides felt this killing intent. Whether it was the Dragonians or the necromancers or the sub-commanders of both sides, all had to stop because of the killing intent. Boom! What is happening? I can't breathe. Someone save me. Almost half of the soldiers from both sides instantly fell to the ground as they couldn't withstand Adam's killing intent. Some weak ones even directly fainted. Eddie looked at his master. A dense red mist was coming out of Adam. The mist surrounding Adam was so dense that Eddie couldn't see Adam or Lawson anymore. Master. Eddie had seen Adam's violent side. Even during the goblin invasion, Adam never lost control of his emotions, but now, it seemed someone had managed to awaken the sleeping beast. Eddie almost felt pity for Lawson, knowing what is going to come next. While everyone on the battlefield felt frightened or oppressed due to Adam's killing intent, there was one person who was extremely happy seeing this. Ha ha ha. This is it, Mr. Adam. This is what I have been waiting for. The real Adam is back. However, Lawson's joy was short-lived as the next second, a giant claw that was made out of flame hit his body and sent him flying like a cannonball. Hellfire Claw. Boom. Lawson was sent flying all the way to the other side of the battlefield. The attack was so fast that Lawson didn't even see it coming. The silver cheek plate had started to melt. While Lawson got up from the crater, Adam already had come in front of him. Lawson, today I will rip your body apart. I won't stop till every single part of your body has been torn by my own hands. Saying that, Adam grabbed Lawson's left leg and threw Lawson in the air. When Lawson opened his eyes, he found himself flying in the air. Before he could understand the situation around him or think about what to do next, Adam appeared behind Lawson as if he had teleported. When Lawson turned around after sensing Adam's presence, he was welcomed with a punch in the face. Boom! The punch sent Lawson back to the ground. Lawson crashed into the ground, creating another big crater beneath him. Lawson felt his entire body was breaking down. His entire body was in unbearable pain. However, despite the pain, he quickly stood up and looked at Adam, who was standing 20 meters away from him. Under Adam were dead bodies of soldiers belonging to the Mystic Spring Empire. The Adam in front of Lawson was completely different from before. He had completely changed. There wasn't any emotion on his face. His head was stoic. The red mist was constantly coming out of his body. Really, thank you very much to all those who send support. Something about Adam has changed. Although Lawson was happy to see the real Adam back, he was also worried in his heart. He knew this battle might as well be his very last battle. Lawson wasn't afraid of death. He would be glad to die on the battlefield. Swoosh! Adam disappeared faster than the wind. While charging at Lawson, he began infusing mana into his greatsword, causing the black greatsword to glow in dark purple light. All this happened in less than 2 seconds. Lawson saw Adam disappear and then reappeared in front of him. Lawson widened his eyes, seeing the famous greatsword that Adam always had used heading in his way with the intention of cutting his body in half. But as Adam thought that his attack would end Lawson's life, a dark claw stopped the greatsword before the greatsword could touch Lawson's body. A dark claw had come out of the crack that appeared before Lawson's chest. The crack was the size of a football. The crack gradually expanded in size. The being that managed to block Adam's attack slowly came out of the void. Beast Technique Number 5, Wandering Release of Void Salamander. 2 meters long-sized dark salamander came out of the crack and stood facing Adam. The salamander's entire body appeared to be slightly transparent. Its eyes were glowing red. The amphibian licked its black tongue and hissed at Adam. Is that a salamander? Adam asked himself while staring at the void salamander. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lawson appeared behind Adam. Beast Technique Number 14, Key Blast. Lawson condensed his mana into an orb on his right fist. The mana orb hit Adam's back. Bang! Adam felt as if he had been hit by a cannonball. The attack was so strong that Adam couldn't keep on standing. He fell to his knees. He felt excruciating pain in his back, especially in his spine. The attack had burned his skin and almost tore his back muscles. Seeing Adam on his one knee, Lawson was very delighted. This is the end. Beast Technique Number 19, Butterfly Stab. As Lawson prepared to stab Adam in the back, suddenly an invisible shockwave spread from Adam's body. Lawson felt as if some mysterious force had violently pushed him away. It was not just Lawson, even the void salamander was pushed away. Ha! With a heavy breath, Adam stood up and charged at the void salamander. What he did just now was nothing but a simple trick that he had managed to pick over the years. He condensed mana around his body like a bubble and then violently pushed the mana around his body, which pushed Lawson and the void salamander away. This is a cheap trick. And Adam knew that it won't work twice. Time to end you. As Adam ran towards the void salamander, just when he was 4 meters away from the void salamander, he suddenly found both of his legs stuck. No matter how much he tried, he couldn't move his legs. Looking down, Adam was surprised to see feet were stuck inside 2 void cracks. Realizing that this was created by the void salamander, he tried to free himself before the salamander attacked him. However, to Adam's surprise, he saw the void salamander gradually becoming more transparent with each passing second. The void salamander did not attack Adam. It stood in its place and hissed at Adam. Adam understood that this void salamander is a summoned beast that will disappear after a certain amount of time. And that time is less than 1 minute. Adam suddenly felt someone coming from behind. When he turned around, he was hit with a giant silver hammer. The hammer was around 4 meters huge in size. Despite being twice his size, Lawson was able to wield it without any problem. As Adam's body was hit by the giant hammer, he couldn't resist the pain anymore. His eyes rolled back as his body flew backward at an uncontrollable speed. He almost lost consciousness from the pain. Bang! He was sent flying more than a few hundred meters away. As his back crashed into hard ground, he almost closed his eyes, feeling his entire body very heavy. Right now his entire body was a mess. Blood had covered his entire body. Many of his bones were broken and shattered. It's a miracle that he was still alive after he took such a powerful attack. The red mist that previously came out of Adam's body stopped. At the same time, the killing intent emitting from Adam also stopped. Previously Adam had used a secret technique that uses killing intent to temporarily boost his stats. This secret skill is a berserk type of skill. Now that the berserk-type skill had been deactivated, the temporary boost that he received also disappeared, leaving Adam even weaker than before. At the same time around the battlefield, the soldiers who had been feeling suffocated and oppressed because of heavy killing intent, finally felt the killing intent disappear. All the soldiers from both sides sighed in relief. This killing intent was making them feel as if they had been put under a mountain. For some low-order cultivators, it was extremely difficult to breathe. Finally, I can properly breathe now. I thought I was going to run out of air. For low-order cultivators, even breathing had become very difficult. They felt as if the air had become heavier. Did the enemy commander get defeated? Noticing that the killing intent had stopped, one of the necromancers from the enemy side couldn't help but ask. No, their battle has reached its peak. The victor of their battle will be decided at any given moment. Another masked necromancer replied while summoning a new batch of undeads. As the previous batch of undeads that he had summoned had been destroyed by the Dragonians. Did his grace win? Eddie asked. Eddie couldn't tell what was happening as he was on the other side of the battlefield. Meanwhile, Adam was about to lose his full consciousness, but right before he fell into the abyss, he saw a picture of his family. His wife and his children were smiling at him. As if seeing the picture of his family had reignited the candle that was about to burn out inside Adam. This isn't time for me to lay down. Adam tried to move his body. I endured much worse injuries back in my prime days. This is nothing. Gritting his teeth, once he tried to push his body to move. Even moving an inch felt extremely difficult to him. If I don't open my eyes now, then we will lose. I don't care for my family even if I had to use my lifespan. Move, damn it. Lawson, who was approaching Adam. Seeing Adam lying in a small crater, with his whole body covered in blood and with his eyes closed, for a second, he thought the fight was over. But his entire body froze in deep shock as he watched Adam opening his eyes and staring at him. His eyes were filled with blood. Adam looked like a corpse that had a bath in a river of blood. Just die already. At that moment, Adam felt as if time had slowed down. He could see the giant silver hammer approaching him. As long as this attack hit his body, there is no doubt that the wild lion of Echo Dominion Empire would be slain by the enemy command. Earlier, when I used Berserk, I had consumed most of my mana. Adam could only watch but not move his body. Just as the hammer was about to hit Adam, a purple color barrier stopped the attack. Both Lawson and Adam were shocked to see this. Adam's shocked face told Lawson that even he couldn't understand what just happened. The purple barrier was transparent. The barrier stopped Lawson's attack. Lawson felt as if he had hit an iron wall. Even though the barrier looks thin and weak, it was extremely strong. Strong enough to withstand attack from peak 4th order cultivator. This. Adam noticed the engagement ring on his left hand was releasing some kind of purple energy. Adam was once again shocked to see this. He never knew that this engagement ring had this kind of function. Now that I think about it, after our marriage, Sophia did take this ring to be customized. Realizing this, Adam was deeply touched. He felt his love for his wife growing. While all these were happening, someone sneaked behind Lawson. Lawson couldn't even detect his presence. But Adam widened his eyes seeing that person. Suddenly Lawson found his entire body tied with metal wires. Seeing Nathan, Lawson frowned in displeasure. This was supposed to be a battle where no one was going to interfere. Nathan had broken that unspoken and unwritten rule. Adam used his hands to drag his body away from the hammer that was currently being stopped by the purple barrier. My apologies for interfering. Since earlier, one of your underlings had saved your life by intervening, we can call things even. Your Grace, this is something that Lady Julia has sent for you. I apologize for being late. What is this? Adam was looking at the test tube that was filled with a strange sparkling orange liquid. This is a special type of liquid that Lady Julia has recently invented. It is called Flask of Speed. Saying that, Nathan gave a 5-star healing pill to Adam. Without needing to say a word, Adam ate the pill first and then drank the orange sparkling liquid that his daughter made for him. Lawson, you're right when you said that I have changed. I don't regret it. Family is never a weakness. I am still alive because of my wife. And I will defeat you with my daughter's help. Unlike you, I am not alone. Adam did not doubt Nathan's word. Meanwhile, Lawson could do nothing but grit his teeth in frustration and anger watching Adam take the 5-star healing pill. Damn it. I was so close to killing Adam. It feels as if heaven is favoring Adam and wants him to live. Eagles Nova 1, oh right. Nathan turned to Lawson. I won't intervene anymore. Please take your time. A few seconds later, Nathan appeared 300 meters away from Adam and Lawson. Without making any noise, like a ghost, he resumed killing the enemy soldiers. Ever since the start of the battle, Nathan has been silently killing the enemy soldier. Time to end this. Yes. That was the only time Lawson agreed with his biggest rival and enemy. Lawson's weapon had the ability to change into a hammer and an axe whenever he wished. Grabbing the silver axe with both of his hands, as his arm muscles bulged and his veins expanded, Adam knew that he cannot block this strike. As the axe struck the ground instead of Adam, it sent shockwaves in all directions. Meanwhile, Adam moved as if he was constantly teleporting. Like this, Adam kept appearing around Lawson. If you're a true warrior, then fight me head on. I think you forgot when you summoned a salamander. Bang! Blood started coming out of his nose. After taking repeated punches, the silver axe fell down. And this is the end. Bang! Cough. Lawson coughed out a large amount of blood. He then looked at Adam. Gradually his eyes were losing light. His consciousness was fading. Just before Lawson lost his consciousness, he saw an image. It was Adam standing surrounded by people. There was his wife, his daughter, his son-in-law, his right man, and many other people. Opposite of Adam, Lawson saw himself. He was standing in darkness. He was completely alone. No one even cared about his existence. I see. Lawson's body fell to the ground. Meanwhile, back when the battle began, Aditya came to face another powerful woman from the enemy side. She was a peak 5th order cultivator. She kept Aditya occupied. As a result, he couldn't lend any help to Adam or anyone. Meanwhile, back when the battle began, Aditya came to face another powerful woman from the enemy side. Who are you? Aditya curiously asked. Aditya would have joined the battle with others, but her presence stopped him. Mystic Spring Emperor sent her to the battlefield, but Aditya's appearance was completely unexpected. The name is Victoria Baxter. It's really nice to meet you, Eastern Emperor. Victoria had dark brown eyes. Her seductive body made Aditya doubt if she was really human. Victoria appeared to be around 25 years old, so she is Victoria. The result did not disappoint Aditya. Now he had general information on all the 5th order cultivators. If I remember correctly, Victoria was raised by the Mystic Spring Empire. She, along with many other orphan children, was recruited by the Mystic Spring Empire's military. Victoria Baxter is known for her monstrous strength. As long as I stay out of her range, defeating her shouldn't be difficult. I certainly wasn't expecting to see you here. What can I say? I am a free soul. I love traveling. Victoria looked past Aditya. Victoria glanced at Aditya. She took a moment to appreciate his handsome face. Although Victoria has been adopted and raised by the Mystic Spring Empire since she was young, she did not love the Mystic Spring Empire to the point where she would sacrifice her dream for the Empire. Eagles Nova 1-0. Although Victoria wasn't sure, she had heard that the Eastern Emperor was very young. He wasn't even 20 years old yet. Despite being peak 3rd order cultivator, he was perfectly capable of killing peak 5th order cultivator. Let's see if he is strong as the rumors say. Aditya and Victoria stared at each other for a second before both of them disappeared. Swoosh. As if both of them had just teleported. Both of them met above the battlefield. Boom. 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 Each of her punches seems to carry great destructive power. Her punches seem to generate strong shockwaves. The punch was powerful enough to push her back by several meters. Victoria touched the area where Aditya had punched before looking at Aditya with an excited smile. You're perfect. Her words left Aditya speechless. He couldn't tell if his punch had hurt her. Aditya's punch did cause her some pain. Once again Aditya was dodging crazy strong punches from Victoria. Aditya was being pushed back. He was overwhelmed. Her punches were very fast and very powerful. Let's try something else then. Bang! A crimson lightning bolt hit Victoria's body and sent her flying. Victoria's back hit the ground, which created a large crater. Since when did my lightning attacks become so weak? Let's try multiple lightning bolts. Victoria was about to sky towards Aditya. Just when her feet left the ground, lightning bolts started raining down on her. One after another, crimson lightning bolts continuously kept striking her body. Bang! 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 The large crater that formed from the impact of the previous attack now had turned into a mega crater. The forest and the mountain around had been destroyed. Victoria was lying in the middle of the crater. When the smoke cleared, Aditya was shocked to see her without any injuries. Instead of injuries, smoke was coming out of her body. Victoria looked at Aditya with a smile before trying to stand up. But this time, it took her a few seconds of struggle to stand. This relieved Aditya knowing that his attacks had worked to some extent. Victoria was about to attack Aditya when she and others noticed something strange happening in the sky. Daxton and his protector stared at the sky in deep fear. Adam, Eddie, Nathan, the Dragonians, and the soldiers all stopped fighting and stared at the sky. As Nathan knew what was going to happen, he was slightly excited. But others did not share his excitement. Some soldiers lost their strength to keep standing. Some felt that this was the end. Some stopped fighting. Some looked desperate. Some looked like they had given up. Some just blankly stared at the sky and laughed in agony. What is this? Victoria asked herself while staring at the sky. Right now Victoria felt as if she had lost all of her confidence. Unlike Aditya, who had an information-gathering system that was spread to every kingdom, empire, and dynasties on the dying Al continent, Victoria and the Mystic Spring Empire didn't have such an information-gathering network. Right now the sky was shining in a mix of different colors. Looking at the sky, Daxton felt a chill running down his spine. He was sure that no one from his empire would be strong enough to stop this attack. Do you think you can stop this attack? The beginner 5th order cultivator who had accompanied Daxton here shook his head with a bitter smile. Watching this, Daxton realized just how powerful Aditya had become. It is unbelievable to think just some months ago, Aditya struggled to defeat peak 4th order cultivators, now he had grown powerful enough to kill peak 5th order. Egglesnull, is this the crazy godly talent a divine dragon possesses? Within a few seconds, all the lightning bolts combined. Boom! The next second a thunderous earth-shaking sound reached everyone's ears. Aditya really hoped that this attack would work against Victoria, otherwise it would be very difficult for him to defeat her. Huff! Huff! That should have seriously injured her. Enraged lightning spell. 3RD order. Description, another special skill that was learned because of having Function 1, by consuming 1000 plus mana, the user can summon a powerful bolt of chaotic lightning. As the mushroom cloud of dust and pebbles began to clear up, Aditya finally saw Victoria lying in the middle of a crater that was lying in the middle of the crater. Victoria found it extremely difficult to stand up. The attack had torn some parts of her black leather pants. Under the bandages, she was wearing a sexy black bra. The black bra can barely contain her huge melons. Her arms and legs were slightly burned. Other than some small burns, Victoria looked completely fine. The black burns on her body were rapidly healing. Before Aditya can come to any conclusion, under his eyes Victoria rose from the crater and started heading in his direction. Seeing this, he took out the adamantite doomblade from his storage ring and charged at Victoria. After finishing things here, I have to head to other battlefields to ensure our victory. It's not that Aditya did not trust his troops and his generals to win the battles, it was rather the opposite. Time to test out the power of my enchantments. Swoosh. As Victoria was about to punch Aditya, she stopped midway as her entire body froze in fear. It was as if she was an ant in the presence of a greater being. What is happening? For some reason, Victoria found it difficult to even breathe in this world. She suspected whatever she just saw was because of this sword. The next second Victoria saw a fist heading in her direction. She tried to defend the attack, but she was too late. He punched her stomach. This time, Victoria felt the power behind his punch had increased. Bang! Victoria was pushed back. Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, she looked at Aditya in deep shock. How did his strength increase suddenly? Seeing that she was beginning to take him seriously, Aditya smiled. Ding! Function 5 of the adamantite doomblade, Bloodlust, has been activated. Function 5, Bloodlust. The adamantite doomblade reacts with your killing intent. When Bloodlust is activated, your physical strength will be increased by 400 plus. Victoria looked slightly pale after taking Aditya's punch. But that paleness quickly disappeared as the golden bracelets started shining once again. A second later, she looked completely fine. Those bracelets are not simple. Aditya guessed that those golden bracelets that she wore must be some kind of powerful artifact that has the ability to heal any injury at a super fast speed or something similar. Although Aditya sent the Shadow Guardian to gather information on all the 5th Order cultivators that the enemy had, it was impossible for the Shadow Guardian to find out every single thing about the enemy. Aditya didn't know that she would have such a powerful artifact in her possession. After Victoria recovered, she started condensing her mana into several orbs. 7 dark purple-shaped football-size orbs formed before her. The orbs began shining brightly as she continued putting her mana into them. After a certain point, the orbs began to shrink in size. Aditya instantly realized what she was doing. She is shrinking the mana orbs. Aditya did not stand there without doing anything. The next second, in front of Aditya, a big orb of crimson flame formed. As the mana orbs kept shrinking in size, the size of the crimson flame kept increasing. Around a few seconds later, the football-size mana orbs had shrunk to become as small as bullets. But each 9 dark purple mana bullet was shining very brightly. Whereas, the football-size crimson flame orb now had turned into a small sun. The crimson orb had 20 meters big in size. Compressed mana bullets. Crimson flaming orb. Both attacks were released. The compressed mana bullets moved faster than the crimson orb. Soon both attacks met each other and then turned into a huge explosion. But just before the explosion, Aditya used the first function of the adamantite doomblade. Enlarge. Just as the explosion took place, Aditya's black sword expanded to become a gigantic black sword that was over 25 meters long and 10 meters wide. Aditya hid his body behind the adamantite doomblade. Knowing that his sword was made from very tough metal and was a peak 5th Order sword, the sword should be able to take the impact of the explosion and protect him from any harm. Boom. On the other hand, Victoria did not do anything. She happily embraced the explosion. Just as the explosion took place, not even a second had passed before she was completely engulfed in it. She didn't even try to protect her body using a mana barrier. Once again the entire battlefield and the New Moon woodlands shook from the explosion. The sound of the explosion traveled beyond the New Moon woodlands and reached the ears of both empires. For a short period, both parties had to temporarily stop fighting as they watched the huge mushroom cloud rising in the air in deep shock. Most soldiers have never seen something like this before. This also made them realize the heaven and earth difference between their powers and the power of a peak 5th Order cultivator. Seeing a large wave of flame heading in their direction, Ashton quickly covered his body in the Echo Dominion Emperor's body in a layer of mana. Daxton widened his eyes in fear as he watched the huge wave of flame approaching him. At that moment, he was regretting his decision to watch Aditya fight. He was cursing his luck. Fortunately, as he found himself engulfed in a sea of flames, nothing really happened to him. Even though he can feel the terrifying temperature of the crimson flames, not a single inch of his body was harmed. Daxton soon realized that a layer of mana had covered his skin and was acting as protective armor. Seeing this, Daxton suddenly felt grateful to his Prime Minister who forcefully sent Ashton with him. If Ashton hadn't come, then his life would have ended here. Meanwhile, as everything cooled down, Aditya moved the adamantite doomblade and looked at his surroundings. This time, the damage that this land had suffered from their battle had reached a new record. The explosion had changed the terrain of this land forever. It has destroyed countless habitats. The magic animals that were previously hiding in their nest and caves died without knowing what killed them. All the mountains, trees, rivers, waterfalls, and valleys had been destroyed and now have been replaced with a humongous-sized crater. Fortunately, Aditya and Victoria were fighting away from the main battlefield, otherwise, there is no doubt that this attack would have nearly killed all the soldiers from both sides. If this kind of explosion takes place in Azure City, then it would destroy nearly 60% to 70% of the entire capital. And Azure City was the largest city in the Eastern Empire. On the other side, the opposite of Aditya. Cough. 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 Eagles Nova 1-0 Victoria was violently coughing out blood. She underestimated the power of the explosion. Even with her artifacts, she should have been cautious and never should have taken the explosion head-on. Her entire body was a complete mess. Around 90% of her body's skin was very badly burned. Right now she looked really ugly. There was no sign of her former beauty. What remained was burned skin. Her entire body was in agonizing pain. Victoria wanted to lie on the ground and scream as it hurt like hell. If she wasn't a peak 5th order cultivator, she would have died right now. This was a very stupid move. I am never doing it again. But it was worth it. Victoria revealed her teeth, which now had been covered in blood, while staring at her bracelets that were glowing very brightly. But just a minute was enough for her to recover around 50% of her injuries. The pain was reduced to half as well. As Victoria was recovering, Aditya emerged from the black mushroom cloud with his adamantite doom blade. Unlike Victoria, who was a complete mess, Aditya looked completely fine. Seeing Victoria this injured, he felt he needed to strike while the iron was still hot. Before she completely recovered, he wanted to take her down. Aditya appeared before Victoria in less than a second. At the same time, the golden bracelet that was shining in bright golden color changed to dark purple color. But Aditya didn't notice this at that moment. He drove the black sword at her chest. Aditya thought that she would try to dodge his attack. However, instead of dodging, she revealed a bloody smile as she allowed the black sword to penetrate her heart. Bang! Ding! The overheat effect of the adamantite doomblade has been triggered. Ding! Overheat, each strike dealt or each hit taken has a chance to put a buff on you, which makes your next strike inflict 200% more damage. With the activation of overheat, the color of the adamantite doomblade changed to crimson. Aditya ignored the words of the system as he thought that the battle was over. Just as the tip of the black sword went all the way and appeared behind her, Victoria did something that confused Aditya. She put her right palm on his chest. Aditya saw Victoria's bracelets releasing dark purple energy. The dark purple energy traveled through the arm and reached her right palm that she had placed on his chest. Boom! A powerful shockwave, followed by a powerful explosion, came out of her right palm and hit his body. Ashton and Daxton, who were watching, widened their eyes in deep shock as they saw Aditya sent flying. Bang! 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 Everything was blurred to Aditya. While breaking everything in his path, a meteorite-like object flew in a straight path for almost 15 kilometers. Bang! His back hit a 5-meter wide tree trunk, until his body crashed into a 100 meters big rocky mountain. Bang! A few seconds later, Aditya tried to open his eyes. The impact had created a mini crater on the rocky mountain itself. The violent impact had caused large cracks. Aditya couldn't move. One moment he saw everything clearly. I can't move. I can't eat any 5-star healing pill that Julia has made for. Those bracelets are not super healing artifacts. Rather, those bracelets have a different function. His entire body was covered in blood. Those bracelets can absorb damage. Each time my attack damaged or injured her body, those damages were absorbed by the bracelet, making it look as if she was healing. But in reality, those bracelets stored all the damage and released everything at me. This is also why she didn't protect herself from facing such a powerful explosion. From the beginning, she had set a trap for me. If I die here, then we will surely lose this war. If that happens, many people are going to suffer. If not for those bracelets, Aditya would have defeated her within a minute. Hee. This is my chance. Hiding in the shadow, a man creepily smiled while staring at Aditya. Soon, an assassin whose entire body was covered in black clothes emerged from the shadow. With this, all the money will be mine. Meanwhile, as Aditya was sent flying, Victoria had a bitter smile on her face as she stared at the golden bracelet. Victoria took out the adamantite doomblade from her heart. While her body healed, the golden bracelets slowly began to crack. With passing seconds, the cracks slowly spread. Damage absorption. With this, all the money will be mine. The assassin took out a dagger to end Aditya's life. When the Prime Minister of the Echo Nexus Empire went to put a bounty on Aditya's head, the assassin organization refused to accept the mission even though the Prime Minister was willing to pay a lot of money. Without giving any reasons, his mission was refused. But fortunately, one of the assassins who happened to hear everything approached the Prime Minister. Usually, assassins would receive bounty through the organization. The Prime Minister and the assassin who came to kill Aditya completely ignored the middleman who was the organization and decided to work with each other. Both parties reached an agreement. Initially, Yuan has been searching for Aditya in the Echo Dominion Empire. He had a feeling that Aditya was going to appear on one of the 4 battlefields. Seeing the target in front of him, Yuan was very happy. Yuan knew that he was taking a huge risk by taking this mission. Fortunately, as an assassin, Yuan had something that made him stand out from others. Yuan kept waiting. He hoped that Victoria would provide him with one single opportunity that he needed to complete the job. Fortunately, he did not have to wait long for that opportunity to come. Yuan wasn't expecting Victoria to surpass his expectations and bring Aditya so near death. I should thank Victoria. I just need to put this dagger in his head and the job will be done. While Aditya could do nothing but watch as Yuan walked towards him. Since the start, I felt weak because of losing so much of my blood. I couldn't fight at my 100. This fight was the first time Aditya has officially lost a fight. Your death will bring me countless benefits. Farewell, Dragon King. Boom. The pressure was so strong that Yuan instantly fell to his knees. Aditya looked down at Yuan, who now had fallen to his knees and was looking pale. His entire body was trembling. His teeth were clattering. Aditya could see drops of sweat rolling down his forehead. This made Aditya wonder what could have turned Yuan this frightened. What she is doing here. Yuan felt he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He had made a mistake that could potentially cost him his own life. Even though Yuan has never seen her face, even though he has never seen how she looked, even though he was never seen how beautiful she was, Yuan and every other assassin that worked for the organization knew her aura. There was no mistaking this aura. Yuan knew that he has violated the code of the organization by independently accepting the mission of the client. The assassins of the organization are never allowed to independently contact the client or accept a mission from the client. Anyone who violates this rule will be executed. Yuan contacted the Prime Minister of Echo Nexus Empire despite knowing the consequences of his actions. A figure flew down the sky. The figure looked at Yuan in silence. The silence was suffocating to Yuan. Judging from her aura, she was a powerful 5th order cultivator. Yuan, you have broken the 37th code of the organization. From now on, you will no longer be a member of the organization. Also, for violating the rule of the organization, the Echo Nexus Empire will be banned from contacting the organization. The organization won't accept any mission from the Echo Nexus Empire. Now you will be punished to death. Aditya felt as if the woman looking at him when she was speaking about the Echo Nexus Empire. Please have some mercy. Save me. Aditya felt as if Yuan was being sent to the abyss. After the shadow hand disappeared and as the portal on the ground closed down, she looked at Aditya who was also looking at her. This is the first time we are meeting, my so-called husband. She did not sound too pleased to see Aditya. Aditya saw a green bead-sized pill floating toward him. Since my life is tied to yours through that damned contract, I can't have you die. Aditya did not speak. He couldn't speak at that moment. Since we have met, let me make this clear. Before leaving the goddess made her will crystal clear. Although I always have been curious about you and wanted to see you at least once. After meeting you, I also feel that our paths should be different. Really thank you very much to all. Meanwhile, Victoria was heading in Aditya's direction as fast as she could move. When she was around a few hundred meters away, she stopped seeing a golden figure. Who is she? Even though both she and Victoria were peak 5th order cultivators, Victoria felt inferior when comparing her strength to this woman. A second later, fortunately, she did not do anything to him. Aditya raised his head sensing something heading in his direction. Releasing that it was Victoria, Aditya got ready to use Soul Blaze. Now that he has recovered some of his mana, though in his current injured state using Inferno Overdrive could harm his body even further. Hold on. Suddenly Aditya realized something as waited for Victoria to why I didn't use teleportation or dragon transfer back then. At that moment, Aditya felt like slapping his own face. Since when did he become so dumb? If he had used teleportation, then he could have returned to the Dragon Palace. But then again, if I had used teleportation, I would have missed the chance of seeing her. Victoria arrived to find Aditya sitting on a rock and waiting for her. His whole body was covered in blood. Crack. At the same time, the sky which had temporarily cleared up after Victoria's attack was now beginning to darken once again. Victoria was very surprised to find Aditya like this. She was expecting him to be on the brink of death. But this only made her admiration and respect towards him grow even more. Aditya noticed that the bracelets that Victoria previously wore were no longer there. As he was about to activate Inferno Overdrive, Victoria quickly stopped him. I surrender. Can we talk? Huh? Aditya was completely perplexed. Taking advantage of the silence, Aditya silently ate a 5-star healing pill. As soon as the pill reached his stomach, his healing speed almost tripled. You left your sword with me. Just as Victoria was about to return to the adamantite Doomblade, Aditya suddenly vanished and reappeared in front of Victoria. He grabbed her by the throat and raised her up in the air. Victoria struggled to breathe. No matter how much she struggled, she was unable to free herself. Looking at Aditya, she found the Dragon King coldly staring at her. There wasn't any hint of mercy on his face. She can tell that he won't hesitate to kill her. What do you want? He asked in a whispering tone. Victoria decided to be honest with her answer. I want you to become my mating partner and my husband. Woman, do you think I am joking right now? Victoria endured the pain and then replied in a sincere tone. I wasn't trying to kill you from the beginning. Seeing your power, I had a feeling that you would be able to survive the power of my golden bracelets. After hearing her words, Aditya loosened his grip, making Victoria feel much better. But he still did not release her as he still did not trust her completely. So what do you want now? Aditya understood that she wanted to defeat him and then take him away while he was still weak and recovering. Hearing his questions, her eyes sparkled as a small smile appeared on her pained face. I wish to follow you. I know that making you my mating partner is impossible. So I want to become your subordinate and gain your trust first. Aditya coldly smiled while releasing a little bit of his killing intent. And why should I believe in your words? This whole thing could be planned by the Mystic Spring Empire. You could be a spy. I don't want any backstabbers as my subordinate. I hate backstabbers. Aditya had too many secrets. Although it sounded tempting to know that a peak 5th order cultivator wished to serve him and follow him, he did not let greed blind his eyes. Hearing Aditya's words, for a second Victoria felt helpless. She was feeling helpless seeing how cautious Aditya was. I have taken an oath to never betray the Mystic Spring Empire. For 25 years, I have served the Mystic Spring Empire with my heart and soul. I have followed every command and every order that I was given by my superiors and by the Emperor. But now I want to think about myself. I have served the Mystic Spring Empire long enough. I want to work on building my own future. Aditya remained silent and listened to her words. Slowly the cold expression on his face was fading. But now that oath doesn't mean anything. Not after I have witnessed the cruel things that the Empire was doing to its own people. I don't want to serve an emperor who makes profits from his people's suffering. I have been thinking of leaving the Mystic Spring Empire for a while and work on making my dream come true. This war gives me the perfect opportunity to leave. Since the Emperor's hand is occupied with the war, he can't send his forces to search for me. After seeing you, I have decided to take you as my mating partner, seeing how strong and powerful you are. I was planning on capturing the Echo Dominion Emperor and handing him over to the Empire and then leaving this place with you to somewhere far. Aditya released Victoria. He had decided to believe in her words for now. Why would you choose me as your mating partner just because of my power? She smiled in response and replied. I have been raised by an Amazonian. I may be not Amazonian, but I have inherited most of their teachings. Just like any other Amazonian, I seek to get the strongest male as my partner. And that male is you. Raised by Amazonian? This explains why you're like this. I don't fully trust you, but if you agree to become my Dragonian, I will make you my subordinate. Even now the Eastern Empire still did not have any peak 5th order cultivators. Besides, Aditya who is capable of killing peak 5th order cultivators, the Eastern Empire really needed a few peak 5th order cultivators. Aditya has strength, Victoria's strength. I agree. Without any questions or without hesitation, Victoria agreed to become Aditya's Dragonian. Let me warn you, once you have become a Dragonian, there is no going back. Whether you like it or not, you will have to serve me for the rest of your life. You will have to follow my every order. After hearing his words, Aditya wanted to see if she would change her mind. If she showed even a slight trace of hesitation, then she is not fit to become a Dragonian. And as his enemy, he will have to kill her. I am prepared for my duties. There is nothing that would change my mind. She sounded very determined. This made Aditya very satisfied with her attitude. Alright, I will begin now. Although Aditya is still suffering from turning 10,000 soldiers into Dragonians at once, he can still push himself to turn Victoria into a Dragonian. Turning her into a Dragonian would give the Eastern Empire a powerful peak 5th order warrior. Victoria can even take Aditya's place on the battlefield. Not only that but also, becoming a Dragonian, she can't betray Aditya or do anything against him or the Eastern Empire. Aditya felt the benefit of her turning into a Dragonian was too many. While the disadvantages were only a very few and very small matters. Close your eyes. Aditya put the adamantite doomblade in his storage ring. He saw Victoria on her right knee. Her head was lowered and she had closed her eyes. Both of her hands were placed on top of her right knee. Without wasting any time, Aditya took out a drop of golden blood. The drop of blood floated above her chest. Upon contact, a golden shine soon spread throughout Victoria's whole body. Her body began to shine in a golden aura. My body is changing. Victoria thought as she gritted her teeth in pain. She felt her insides burning. The burning sensation inside was making her feel as if she had been sent to hell. She felt Aditya was intentionally punishing her for seriously injuring him. But she knew that this wasn't true. If he wanted to hurt her, he could have done it when she had surrendered. Also, she could feel her blood changing. She could feel her power and strength rapidly increasing. It was a mysterious feeling. It was difficult to describe what she was feeling in just a single word. She felt her spine is getting stronger and something on her back is changing. As time passed, Victoria sensed a deep connection between her and Aditya being forged. She felt like she was able to understand Aditya more. She felt much closer to Aditya. A strong connection with other dragons had formed. She could feel many kinds of changes taking place. Around a minute later, the golden aura surrounding her body finally disappeared. As Victoria opened her eyes, she raised her head and stared at her master. How do you feel? This was the first time Aditya has turned a peak 5th order warrior into a Dragonian. I feel wonderful. Though my cultivation has remained the same, I can feel my power has increased by several folds. In truth, Victoria couldn't wait to try out her new strength. If Aditya wasn't her master, she already would have challenged him to test out her powers and her new limit. I can't believe what I am seeing right now. To think a peak 5th order cultivator from the enemy side would submit herself to the Eastern Emperor, today has been full of shock. Aditya and Victoria have long sensed his presence. It was Ashton. Daxton had sent Ashton to save Aditya. But being a beginner 5th order cultivator, his speed was really slowed compared to Victoria. When he arrived, he found Victoria kneeling in front of Aditya. A golden glow surrounded her body. If only I had arrived a few seconds earlier, I could have seen how the Eastern Emperor turned Victoria into a Dragonian. Ashton was full of regret. Ashton moved as fast as his body could move, but he still was late. He can tell that Victoria is several times stronger than her previous self. This is the benefit that comes from being a Dragonian. Ashton has even heard that becoming a Dragonian can push cultivation to the next realm or to the next rank. Ashton was envious and jealous of Victoria. Unfortunately, he can't change his master. If he could, then he also would have served Aditya. Meanwhile, Aditya removed his t-shirt which had been torn apart and was soaked in his blood. By now the injuries on his body were almost healed. This goes to show the power that Julia's 5-star healing pills had. Just 2 minutes ago, Aditya was seriously injured and was on the brink of death. And now he is almost recovered and was ready for another fight. From time after time, her pills keep on saving my life. My dear wife, without you, I might not have survived so far. Aditya thought in his head. You two go back. I want to clean myself in a nearby river or lake. Victoria wanted to watch Aditya take a bath. Unfortunately, it was not possible. She could only satisfy her curiosity with her imagination. As the two were about to head back, Aditya's voice stopped them. Victoria, I want you to kill them all. He then vanished in thin air. She was smart enough to understand what she needed to do now. Her role now had completely changed. She was a Dragonian of the Eastern Empire. And the Mystic Spring Empire was her enemy now. Your Grace, are you all right? Asked Eddie Wood, the right-hand man of Duke Adam honored. I am still alive. Adam was feeling slightly exhausted. What about you? Adam asked as he started killing the enemy soldiers. Eddie, who was standing behind Adam, scanned the battlefield while replying. I can still go on. By the way, where is His Majesty? An arrow flew towards Adam. I don't know. Maybe they are fighting somewhere far from the battlefield. Adam and others felt the shockwave and Aditya and Victoria's attacks collided. Meanwhile, Eddie was scanning the battlefield. Previously the undead summoned by the necromancers were starting to overwhelm their soldiers, but now the tide has shifted. The army of 600,000 had around 5,000 Dragonians. Each Dragonian was in a league of his own. When the battle started, half of the Dragonians started taking down the enemy archers and started destroying the magic cannons or killing the soldiers who operated the magic cannons. Among the soldiers, Dragonians, necromancers, archers, and knights, there was one other individual who had killed the most soldiers. No one from the enemy side knew his identity. He was a silent killer. No one knew when he arrived and when he left. He was the shadow of this battlefield. He silently observed and killed. No one was able to sense him. He was Nathan, the best assassin of the Eastern Empire, the captain of the Shadow Guardian Squad, and one of the most powerful generals of the Eastern Empire. Adam and Eddie knew even without Aditya's help, they would in the battle. When the enemy commander was alive, the Mystic Spring Empire's soldiers were full of spirit and fighting intent. The commander has already died, why are we still fighting? Should we also run? The Group C archers knew that soon it would be their turn. Is that even a question that needed to be asked? The enemy was gradually pushing them. Let's run. The captain of Group C, who has been relentlessly shooting arrows and was trying to take down as many enemy soldiers as possible, suddenly found his group members running away. What the hell are you guys doing? Sir, I think we should retreat. Unfortunately, by the looks of things, we already have lost this battle. As soon as the captain lowered his bow and started running away, all the remaining archers also followed him and started fleeing. As the archers started fleeing, seeing them, other soldiers also followed. But how can Nathan let that happen? Really, thank you very much to all those who... As the archers started fleeing, seeing them, other soldiers also followed. The fleeing of the Group C archers had caused a chain reaction to occur. More and more archers, knights, and soldiers started fleeing from the back. But how can Nathan let that happen? If all of these archers and soldiers reached Oakbank City, which is the defensive fort located at the border of the Mystic Spring Empire, it would be troublesome when they attack Oakbank City. While the infantry, archers, foot soldiers, and knights were fleeing the battlefield, among the fleeing troops, the knights moved the fastest as they were riding magic mounts. Why I am always so unlucky. Never did I imagine I would be sent to the battlefield even though I am one of the weakest knights. The knight stopped as he felt his horse had stepped on something. Boom. The next second, a big explosion took place. The next second, following the first explosion, 4 more explosions took place. Boom. 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 Each explosion killed around 20 to 30 soldiers and left 20 more with serious injuries. I must be hallucinating. A few other knights saw what happened. Nathan moved like he was teleporting. Each second he would appear somewhere else. I guess I will have to use dragon transformation then. Boom. Nathan no longer hid. Rain of poison needle. The soldiers completely ignored Nathan. Thousands of shadow needles started falling from the sky. What the hell is that? But the next second he got his answer. His skin started to turn black. A few seconds later, he simply fell to the ground and lost his life. The same thing happened to every infantry, knight, foot soldier. Rain of poison needles. Once again, Nathan used the same technique. This time the attack took out almost 10,000 troops. Once again Nathan used the same skill. After using the same skill 3 times in a row, Nathan's face became pale. All of my skills are meant for single targets or multiple target. Rain of poison needles is an exception. Rain of poison needles. 40H order skill. Description: the Rain of Poison Needles is a special assassin class attack. It is known from where this skill came from. The Rain of Poison Needles skill was made during the Aeon of Waste era. There are only a few individuals in this world who knows this skill. Function: the skill increases the power of any poison by 3 times. Shriveling Torment Poison. Description: the Shriveling Torment is a special type of poison that produces inside a magic black apple. Meanwhile, seeing almost all the troops were beginning to run away, Adam issued an order. Everyone, listen to the command. Adam's words also reached the ears of the soldiers who were fleeing. Following Nathan, all other Dragonians also used Dragon Transformation. After using Dragon Transformation, their powers rose to another level. A new problem emerged at their hands. The option of letting the troops escape wasn't available to them. The entire battlefield was in chaos. By now many of the soldiers had managed to escape into the forest and the mountains that surrounded the battlefield. Bang! While killing enemy troops, Nathan looked around and scanned his surroundings. 400,000 troops were not a small number. Daxton, the Echo Dominion Emperor, did not join the battlefield. When Daxton and Nathan were feeling helpless and frustrated, a figure with crimson wings arrived at the battlefield. She stood in the sky and watched how the troops run for their lives. I never knew the Mystic Spring Empire troops would be this spineless. Disgusting. What she is doing here. Adam, Daxton, Eddie, and Nathan all stopped fighting after feeling Victoria's strong presence. Adam, Emperor Daxton, and Eddie were confused and in doubt. If Victoria was here, then what happened to Aditya or Ashton, they wondered in their minds. Meanwhile, as a Dragonian, Nathan was able to feel that Victoria has become a Dragonian as well. What happened? Nathan could somehow guess that Victoria has switched sides and had become their ally, but he couldn't guess how this happened. As the troops were running away, suddenly a bright golden light crashed into the ground at a sound-breaking speed. Boom! A cloud of dust and pebbles rose in the air and blocked everyone's vision. The troops were not planning on stopping till they were forced to stop because of Victoria's powerful aura. She used her peak 5th order cultivation to pressure all the fleeing troops and make them stop. I never knew you guys were so spineless. A cold familiar voice sent shivers down every fleeing soldier's spine. How can they not recognize this voice? Really, thank you very much.